Chapter 1915. Su Fang told Xian Lingzi the reason for his visit. What book did Baba read? Oh, after a long time, Xian Lingzi slowly said, "It's time to tell you about your father's past." Then, Xian Lingzi narrated the past. Mo Fenghua's father, Mo Shangtsang, had unparalleled cultivation talent in Kuan Su divine sect. He was also famous in the entire star below God realm. If nothing unexpected happened, Mo Shangtsang's future achievements would be at least the realm lord of a small realm. Unfortunately, geniuses often died young, and Mo Shangtsang was the same. During one of his adventures, Mo Shangtsang met a woman called Ji Bing, and then fell in love with her. Who knew that Ji Bing's identity was extraordinary? She came from an ancient god race, the Ji people. The Ji people were located in a distant star field. They were an ancient and powerful god race on the same level as Sanskrit. God races with ancient inheritances paid the most attention to bloodline and identity. How could they allow Ji Bing to become Tao companions with a god from a small realm? Although Mo Shangtsang's talent was outstanding, it was limited to a large realm. In the eyes of the Ji people, it was nothing. Therefore, a very cliché yet extremely tragic scene began to play out. Ji Bing was captured by the experts of the Ji people and imprisoned in her clan. She then pursued Mo Shangtsang. Mo Shangtsang was indeed a peerless genius. Despite being hunted down by the experts of the Ji clan time and time again, not only did he not die, but his strength had also rapidly increased. He had also obtained many fortuitous encounters. Even the powerful Ji clan could not do anything to him. Later, Ji Bing sent a message to Mo Shangtsang. They agreed to meet in the ruins of a god realm. She also told Mo Shangtsang that she gave birth to a son, Mo Fenghua. Mo Shangtsang was pleasantly surprised. He went to meet Ji Bing and his son. Who knew that he would be surrounded by the experts of the Ji people? Mo Shangtsang mistakenly thought that Ji Bing had betrayed him and purposely set a trap. In his anger, he took Mo Fenghua away. He did not hesitate to burn his god body, Yang spirit, and divine palace to break out of the encirclement. However, he was also heavily injured. It was only later that Mo Shangtsang found out that all of this was a scheme set up by the Ji people. Ji Bing didn't know anything about it. After being captured and brought back to the Ji people, Ji Bing's heart was like dead ashes. She used a divine ability to end her own life force and turned into an ice sculpture, standing tall on a cliff. After your father heard the news, he sent you back to Kuan Su's divine sect. Then, he rushed to the Ji people. Wielding his sword, he killed his way into the Ji people alone and arrived in front of your mother's ice sculpture. He had long harbored the thought of death. He only wanted to see your mother for the last time because he wanted to repent. At this point, great sorrow appeared on Xian Lingzi's old face. Before your father died, he said to the ice statue that your mother had turned into, "I'm willing to turn into mud. If you're willing to forgive me, please turn into water. You and I will stay together forever. We will never be separated." Then, your father's god body and cultivation base turned into dust and scattered under your mother's feet. Perhaps your mother heard your father's voice in the unseen world. The ice sculpture that she turned into melted into water and merged with your father, becoming one with him. After Xian Lingzi finished speaking, tears flowed down his old face. Su Fang's heart was also filled with desolation. He didn't expect that Mo Fenghua's parents would have such a tragic past. After a long silence, Su Fang asked, "Jiang Baozhen said that the Ji people will send someone to pick me up. What does that mean?" Jiang Baozhen said that? Xian Lingzi's expression changed instantly. He suddenly stood up from his seat. Su Fang repeated Jiang Baozhen's words. Xian Lingzi was completely flustered. Tongbao Chamber of Commerce is well informed. If Jiang Baozhen said that, then she must have heard something. What should we do? Divine clans like the Sanskrit and the Ji people especially valued the cultivation of their descendants. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to survive until now. Mo Fenghua had the bloodline of the Ji people and could be considered a descendant of the Ji people. If the Ji people knew of Mo Fenghua's exceptional talent in the Chaos Ruins, they would try to get her to return to the clan. As for Mo Fenghua's personal thoughts, that wasn't something that the high and mighty Ji people had to consider. When the time came, they would send out experts to forcibly take Su Fang away from Kuan Su's divine sect. Then, they would change her surname and capture her to the Ji people to brainwash her. This was something that could be imagined. Jiang Baozhen clearly knew about this through Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. That was why she intentionally leaked this information to Su Fang and expressed goodwill to Su Fang. As for who leaked the information about Kuan Su's divine sect to the Ji people, Su Fang couldn't guess. My son died because of the Ji people. How can my grandson join the Ji people? Xian Lingzi was anxious and angry. After thinking for a long time, Xian Lingzi said in a low voice, Fenghua, no matter what, you can't join the Ji people. However, the Ji people are powerful. Grandfather can't protect you. Even the 3 divine kings have no excuse to stop the Ji people. Your only chance is the God's Son competition. If you can become Kamiko Hoshino, even the Ji people won't dare to force you. Su Fang asked in surprise. Although Kamiko Hoshino's identity is extraordinary, it's still hard for him to go against the Ji people, right? Xian Lingzi said, Don't underestimate the God's Son competition. It's not as simple as you think. Grandfather, I vaguely know that the God's Son competition isn't held to select geniuses for the Star Billow God Realm, nor is it for the God Realm where the Star Billow God Realm is located. It's for some supreme existences to select geniuses from all over the universe. If you can become Kamiko Hoshino, the Ji people won't dare to touch you easily. If you're lucky enough to become the God's Son of the entire star field, not to mention the Ji people, even the Ji people and the Sanskrit together won't dare to touch a single hair on your head. Xian Lingzi's words shocked Su Fang. How vast was the universe? Who could be so generous to be able to select geniuses from all over the universe? What was the purpose of selecting geniuses? At this time, the voice of Luo's primordial spirit suddenly came from the depths of his body. To be able to hold such a grand event to select geniuses from all over the universe, only those legendary supreme existences can do it. And it's not just one of them, but many of them working together. Luo, what do you think the supreme existences are doing by selecting geniuses on such a large scale? Luo pondered for a moment, then slowly replied, If I'm not wrong, it's most likely because of the changes in heaven and earth. As for the specific reason, it's hard for me to speculate. Su Fang calculated the time of the announcement of the God's Son contest. There was not much difference between the time of the first round of Xie Yang's ascension. Luo's speculation was somewhat reasonable. A Sanskrit and then a Ji people. It seems that I have no other choice. No matter what, I have to show my talent at the God's Son contest. First, Kamiko Hoshino, then the God's Sons of the entire star field. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a resolute look. Xian Lingzi said, Maybe Jiang Baozhen just said it casually. You don't have to worry about anything. Before the God's Son contest, don't go anywhere. Just stay in Kuan Su's divine sect. There's also the blood oath duel with Fan Su. You've fused with a small part of prehistoric inflammation. It shouldn't be difficult to defeat Fan Su, but don't let your guard down. Yes, Grandpa. Su Fang glanced at Xian Lingzi's temples. In this short period of time there was a lot of silver. He couldn't help but feel touched. After leaving the secret realm where Xian Lingzi cultivated, Su Fang went to the place where Kuan Su's divine sect received resources. He received 10,000 years' worth of cultivation resources in one go. There were pills and all kinds of spiritual items. Su Fang was now a special disciple. He enjoyed all kinds of treatment as a venerable Tao disciple. Naturally, the resources he received were not comparable to ordinary disciples. 10,000 years' worth of cultivation resources was almost all the wealth of an elder. Then Su Fang went to the scripture cave of Kuan Su's divine sect. Using his identity, he wantonly chose cultivation methods and magical powers in the scripture cave. Su Fang had supreme cultivation methods like 9 suns 9 changes, life-shrinking technique, and illusory fire cloud. He also had many magical powers. Kuan Su's divine sect was far from comparable. Therefore, it was difficult for him to choose what he was satisfied with. However, Su Fang didn't plan to choose any powerful cultivation methods or magical powers. Instead, he chose a few fire-element cultivation methods and magical powers. They were similar to the illusory fire cloud, but their power was far inferior. Su Fang's main purpose was to use these cultivation methods and magical powers to cover up his fire-element magical powers so as to avoid arousing suspicion. Just as Su Fang was choosing cultivation methods and magical powers in the scripture cave, Jiang Baozhen brought his experts back to the realm-crossing Stargate. It wasn't easy for him to meet the mysterious cloaked deity, who knew that he wouldn't even be able to catch a strand of hair. Jiang Baozhen was very depressed. After returning, Jiang Baozhen found that Ancestor Grand Star had disappeared. He was very annoyed. Just as he was about to leave Ancestor Grand Star and enter the realm-crossing Stargate, Jiang Baozhen suddenly remembered something. His expression changed abruptly. "Not good?" The middle-aged expert hurriedly asked. "Young master, what happened?" Before entering the Chaos Ruins, in order to prevent any accidents, this young master handed an extremely important treasure to Grand Star for safekeeping. Now that he suddenly disappeared, this young master suspects that he might have absconded with the treasure. Damn it, he really deserves to die. Jiang Baozhen's eyes spewed flames of anger. He was extremely furious. The middle-aged expert asked in surprise, "What kind of treasure is so important? Why did young master hand it to Grand Star for safekeeping?" Jiang Baozhen gritted his teeth and said, "It's an important treasure that entered the Chaos Ruins. This young master saw that Grand Star was very obedient and weak, so I handed it to him for safekeeping. I didn't expect him to be so daring." The middle-aged expert said, "Young master, don't worry. If this person really stole your treasure, even if he escaped to other star fields, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape the pursuit of Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce." "I hope so," Jiang Baozhen said resentfully. He then arranged for his subordinates to continue searching for Ancestor Grand Star's whereabouts. He entered the realm-crossing Stargate and left Kuan Su's divine realm. 3 days later, Su Fang returned from the hidden scripture cave with a full load. After returning to the quiet room in the dojo, Su Fang created a formation and sealed the quiet room. He was ready to settle down in seclusion for a long time and wait until the day of his duel with Fan Su. Suddenly, there was a movement in his body. It turned out that it was Gui Gui who was transmitting her thoughts to Su Fang. He didn't know what had happened. Chapter 1916. As soon as it saw Su Fang's young spirit, Gui Gui immediately spat out some items from its mouth. 8 read books. They were all things on Grandmaster Hongxing's body that were difficult for Gui Gui to devour. There were storage rings, divine weapons, and the gold-like divine weapon that Su Fang had seen before was also among them. "What's this?" What caught Su Fang's attention was a piece of purple jade. It looked like a flying shuttle with a golden luster in it. It did not look outstanding. However, Su Fang could sense that there was an ancient and mysterious heavenly path aura in the purple jade flying shuttle. It was not an ordinary aura, but a trace of chaotic aura. He used his great perfection ability to sense it carefully for a long time, but he could not find anything. Su Fang peeled off a strand of his consciousness and entered the purple jade flying shuttle. What appeared in his consciousness was a golden rainbow that was formed by countless mysterious imprints intertwined. As soon as Su Fang's consciousness touched the golden rainbow, Law suddenly shouted, "Be careful!" However, Law's warning was still a little late. With a whoosh, Su Fang felt that his entire primordial spirit and consciousness had been sucked away by the golden rainbow. As the golden rainbow flew, time and space changed. The endless galaxy flew by, and countless chaotic torrents rolled. It was as if his consciousness was flying in the galaxy and chaos. Perhaps a moment had passed, or perhaps tens of millions of years had passed, but Su Fang felt that he had traveled countless spatial distances in the chaotic void. The power of his primordial spirit was rapidly consumed, and it was almost as if his entire yang spirit had been drained. "Why aren't you withdrawing?" Law's voice was like a thunderclap in Su Fang's consciousness. Su Fang felt a shock, and his consciousness withdrew from the purple jade. Only then did Su Fang realize that in just 2 or 3 breaths, his Taoist robe was drenched in sweat, and most of the power of his primordial spirit had been consumed. "Law, what the hell is this?" Su Fang was scared. If it were not for Law's reminder, the final result would have been that the power of his primordial spirit would have been drained. The consequences would have been unimaginable. This is not a ghost. It's a divine weapon and also a token. Divine artifact? Token? Su Fang wiped the sweat off his forehead. When he heard that it was a treasure, he immediately became spirited. That's right, the previous owner of this purple jade was quite amazing. His name was the Golden Rainbow King, and there were records of this person in the ancient books of my Azure Divine clan, so I just happened to know some things about him. Law told Su Fang. The Golden Rainbow King is actually a bandit. However, he is an incomparably powerful bandit who roams unhindered in various major star fields. According to the ancient records of my clan, the Golden Rainbow King killed an important royal disciple of my clan. As a result, he was hunted down by my Azure Divine clan. What do you think the result was? Luo, don't keep me in suspense. Just say it. At that time, our clan was at its peak. We were one of the top 1,000 forces in the myriad world. However, even though we sent out countless experts, we were still unable to do anything to this person. Su Fang was shocked. So powerful? Could this Golden Rainbow King be a supreme existence in the myriad worlds? But why would such an existence become a bandit? The Golden Rainbow King was able to escape from the Azure Divine clan's pursuit not because he was strong, but because he had a supreme divine creation artifact called the Piercing Sun Golden Rainbow. After activating it, he could instantly travel through the chaotic void and break through all barriers and restrictions. Even an existence as strong as a region master would find it difficult to catch him. What a good fortune divine artifact! It's actually so powerful! Su Fang exclaimed. What was a fortune divine artifact? Heaven and earth had just been created not long ago, and the heavenly Tao had just formed. It was a treasure born from the chaos, and it was a fortune divine artifact. A fortune divine artifact was a treasure born from heaven and earth. It was not something an ordinary artifact refiner could refine. Not only was its power boundless, but it was also extremely rare. Moreover, the Piercing Sun Golden Rainbow was not an ordinary fortune divine artifact. It could travel through the chaos void and break through barriers and restrictions. With such a fortune divine artifact, wouldn't one be able to roam freely in the myriad worlds? He hurriedly asked, could it be that this purple jade is related to the Golden Rainbow King? That's right. The Golden Rainbow King later died for unknown reasons. Before he died, he left behind 3 such purple jade flying shuttles. Not only are they fortune divine artifacts, but they are also tokens to enter the broken world he left behind in the chaos. It is said that through the purple jade flying shuttles, one can find and enter the Golden Rainbow King's broken world. If one passes the test, one can obtain his inheritance. Who knows, one might even have the chance to obtain the Piercing Sun Golden Rainbow, a supreme fortune divine artifact. I didn't expect that after so many years, the Golden Rainbow King's token would still be here. This means that no one has obtained his inheritance. If someone did obtain his inheritance, the token would automatically be destroyed. Even more unexpected is that you would be able to obtain his token. Su Fang's eyes lit up. In other words, I have the chance to obtain the Golden Rainbow King's inheritance, and obtain the Supreme Fortune Divine Artifact, Piercing Sun Golden Rainbow? It's only a possibility. Your current cultivation is too low. How could it be easy to find the Golden Rainbow King's broken world with the help of the token? Just like just now, just searching for the coordinates in the chaos will directly exhaust the power of your primordial spirit, not to mention entering the broken world to search for treasures. Unless you have the cultivation of a transcending heaven god, and that demonic rock grows to a certain height, you will barely have the qualifications to search for the Golden Rainbow King's inheritance. Even then, you might not be able to find it. The Chaos Void is too big and too dangerous. Not to mention you, even when I was still strong, I didn't dare to wander around the Chaos Void. Law unceremoniously poured a bucket of cold water on Su Fang. Anyway, there's no hurry. It won't be too late to search for the Golden Rainbow King's inheritance when you have enough strength in the future. Su Fang chuckled mischievously, feeling very happy in his heart. Law continued, in fact, this purple jade is also a treasure. Moreover, it is a peak supreme grade divine artifact called the heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle. You only need to fuse with it and then comprehend the laws contained in the heavenly marks in the purple jade to activate it. Although it's not as powerful as the piercing sun graceful treasure, it's still an extremely extraordinary divine artifact. It can travel between two divine realms and also has a certain ability to break restrictions. Heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle? Not bad, it's really a good treasure. It's just right for my current strength. It seems that I really have to thank Grand Star Ancestor for giving me such a treasure. Su Fang happily put away the purple jade. Grand Star Ancestor was also a person with great luck. When he was in the Great World, he accidentally obtained a letter from the Grand Star Hall that had fallen from the heavens to the Great World. He learned about the Golden Rainbow King's deeds, but he didn't pay much attention to it at that time. After ascending to the Divine Realm, Grand Star Ancestor saw the heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle at an internal auction of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. He was immediately surprised and delighted. Who knew that the heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle would end up in Jiang Baozhen's hands? Jiang Baozhen didn't know the true use of the heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle. She only knew that it was related to a certain ruin in the primal chaos void. Grand Star Ancestor didn't hesitate to become Jiang Baozhen's follower. In the end, not only did he end up being devoured by ghosts, but his luck also helped Su Fang. This was probably fate. I didn't expect Mo Fenghua's parents to have such an experience. Now, there's another huge problem. Thinking about the possible trouble, Su Fang felt immense pressure. Suddenly, a cold air gushed out from the Origin Sacred Mirror. Along with the cold air, Shu Wanjin's voice faintly sounded. This isn't just Mo Fenghua's problem. It's also a problem that you'll have to face sooner or later. Senior sister. He didn't expect Shu Wanjin to suddenly appear. Ever since she came to the heavens, she rarely spoke. However, from her words, it could be determined that she had always been paying attention to Su Fang. First of all, congratulations to you for gaining a foothold in the heavens and successfully forming 57 yang meridians. Your strength has increased greatly. It seems that your efforts weren't in vain. Thank you for your praise, senior sister. The divine race that Mo Fenghua's mother belongs to is actually closely related to you and me. The Ji people are the powerful divine race that chased after my father and me. Such a coincidence. Su Fang was surprised and shocked. Su Fang had never forgotten the past of the Ji Hong immortal sovereign, who was also Shu Yunkong. Shu Yunkong's family had once controlled a large world. Later on, the family's power declined, and the entire family could only stay in a small world. Shu Wanjin had appeared out of nowhere and displayed her peerless talent. She was fancied by a powerful divine race's young master, who wanted to become Shu Wanjin's Tao companion. In the end, Shu Wanjin swore to die and was chased to a mysterious ruin by the divine race. She was still trapped there. Shu Yunkong was also seriously injured by the divine race's experts and fled to a large world to prolong his feeble existence. Due to a misunderstanding, Shu Wanjin saw Shu Yunkong as her enemy. Later on, they resolved their grudge. The powerful divine race that caused all of this was unexpectedly the Ji people. It was truly a coincidence. // Shu Wanjin said faintly, everything has karma in it. Between you, me, and my father, there is a karmic connection of fate. The Ji people are my father's and my mortal enemies. There will naturally be an invisible force in fate that will entangle you with the Ji people. You can't avoid it. Since I can't avoid it, I'll take it all on myself. The Ji people. Su Fang snorted inexplicably. The Divine Child Tournament is your chance. The Divine Child nascent soul in the time cave abode should be right. The Divine Child Tournament will involve many supreme existences in the heavens. As long as you show your peerless talent and attract the attention of the true experts, the Ji people won't dare to touch you. Senior sister, I understand. For now, I can only use this method to protect myself. When I have enough power, I'll kill my way into the Ji people and seek justice for Master, Senior Sister, and Mo Fenghua's parents. Su Fang said domineeringly. Work hard. The main thing is to cultivate the 9 Yang 9 transformations. When you reach the 7th transformation, not only will you be able to understand more secrets of the Origin Sacred Mirror and control a portion of its power, you'll also be able to help me out of my current predicament. When the time comes, I'll also participate in the Divine Child Tournament. Senior Sister will be able to escape once you reach the 7th transformation. Chapter 1917. My cultivation of the 9E9 transformations is far higher than yours. As long as you cultivate the 9 Yang 9 transformations to the 7th transformation, our Yin and Yang dual cultivation should be able to help me get out of this predicament. Then, I will also release my peerless edge. Work hard. I believe that the day we meet again will not be too far away. Just like before, after Shu Wanjin finished speaking, her voice gradually faded away along with the cold air, finally disappearing into the mysterious space of the Origin Sacred Mirror. Su Fang began to seal the palace and immerse himself in cultivation. More than 3,000 years had passed in the time cave abode, while more than 300 years had passed in the outside world. On this day, in the time cave abode, Su Fang was in seclusion and attacked repeatedly. Finally, a tribulation aura erupted from his body. Su Fang flew out of the time cave abode. As soon as he appeared, the tribulation fire burned. Then, a large amount of impurities overflowed layer by layer and were quickly burned to ashes. The impact quickly covered his entire body. At the same time, Su Fang activated the 9 Yang divine fire and the illusory fire cloud, burning crazily in his body. In an instant, Su Fang's entire body turned into a burning cloud of fire. In this burning state, his divine body was like a peerless divine artifact that was being smelted, rapidly transforming. In the promotion power, in addition to the aura of the heavenly Tao and the fusion of the physical body, there was also a surge of luck. The purple Qi Dharma spirit also operated automatically. A mysterious purple Qi lingered on Su Fang's body and the fire cloud, making Su Fang appear even more mysterious. This kind of burning was extremely shocking and lasted for as long as a month. The aura of the heavenly Tao constantly descended from heaven and earth and imprinted on Su Fang's divine body, as well as his divine palace and divine aperture, causing Su Fang's aura to continuously rise until it finally stabilized at the 8th level. There was also an additional heaven mark in his divine palace, divine aperture, and flesh membrane. 8th Firmament True God. After 3,000 years, Su Fang finally broke through to the 8th firmament true God in one go. It was Su Fang's first time cultivating in seclusion for such a long time since he became a cultivator. He had only advanced a small step in 3,000 years. It seemed that the speed of improvement was very slow. However, compared to the long lifespan of a god, 3,000 years was nothing. Compared to true gods of the same level, Su Fang's rate of improvement could be said to be astonishing. He was completely comparable to those geniuses of the great world. When the tribulation fire completely disappeared, Su Fang had completed his advancement. Standing up from the ground and spreading his arms, Su Fang felt the surging power in his body, as well as the feeling of his entire body transforming. A powerful sense of self-confidence and pride welled up in his heart, and he couldn't help but let out a long roar. Then, Su Fang activated the illusory fire cloud. Boom! Su Fang's entire body seemed to be on fire. An astonishing flame divine power swept out, and everything in the room was set ablaze with a loud bang. Under the domineering and scorching flame divine power, everything was turned into ashes. First, it was the quiet room where Su Fang was cultivating in seclusion. Then, it was the entire palace. The might of the flames covered a distance of nearly 300 feet, and everything was burning. Oh no! Su Fangdao was shocked. He didn't expect the fire cloud monarch physique to be this powerful after all these years of cultivating the illusory fire cloud. Subconsciously, Su Fang activated the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. During these years, while Su Fang was cultivating, he was also constantly fusing with the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. With the strength of a true god, it was originally impossible for them to control a peak supreme-grade divine artifact. The moment they activated it, their magic power, divine essence, and primordial spirit would be sucked dry by the divine artifact. However, Su Fang was different. He had the supreme ability of the purple cloud spirit to control magic treasures. His divine essence was abundant enough, and his primordial spirit was also incomparably powerful, even surpassing that of a true god. Thus, not only did he fuse with more than half of the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle, he was now able to activate more than 30% of its power. Chi. Just as Su Fang activated the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle, a golden light shot out from the purple jade shuttle. It turned into a golden rainbow and appeared in front of Su Fang. One end of the golden rainbow enveloped Su Fang, while the other end extended into the endless distance at lightning speed. With a flash of golden light, one end of the golden rainbow was retracted, and it swept Su Fang out of the palace. The barrier of Xian Ling Taoist Rite, as well as the barrier and world barrier of Kuan Su's divine sect, was nothing in front of the golden rainbow. The golden rainbow passed through it. Su Fang only felt that the sky and earth were spinning. The entire world was flipping, and time and space were constantly changing. After an unknown amount of time, his body suddenly stopped. A cold and desolate aura quickly enveloped his body. Su Fang focused his eyes and couldn't help but be shocked. At this moment, he was actually in the middle of a desolate galaxy. He didn't know how many tens of thousands of miles away from Kuan Su's divine sect. This time, Su Fang had consumed about a third of his divine essence, primordial spirit power, and magic power. In other words, with his current strength, he could only activate the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle 3 times at most. In order to test the distance of the void travel this time, Su Fang rode on the flying sword and flew towards Kuan Su's divine sect. In the void, he could barely sense the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Fortunately, Su Fang had a certain level of ability to control the world, and he didn't lack medicinal pills. After flying for a full 3 months, he finally arrived at Kuan Su's divine sect. Calculating with his fingers, this time he activated the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. He actually traversed a distance of 10 million miles in an instant. Moreover, this was within the galaxy that was shackled by the natural energy of heaven and earth. If he was in the divine realm, the distance would be 10 times greater. The sky-piercing rainbow shuttle is already so astonishing. How terrifying is the Golden Rainbow King's divine creation artifact, the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. Su Fang was full of expectations for the divine creation artifact, the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. However, with his current strength, he could only dream about it at most. Su Fang's sudden disappearance and the destruction of the palace scared Xian Lingzi out of his wits. He thought that a strong enemy had captured Su Fang. The entire Kuan Su's divine sect was in a state of chaos. Almost everyone moved out together to search for Su Fang's whereabouts. Now that Su Fang had returned safely, everyone was relieved. After a round of questioning, Su Fang evaded them vaguely. It was a false alarm. Kuan Su was furious, but he couldn't do anything to Su Fang. Xian Lingzi, on the other hand, reprimanded Su Fang and chose a new cave residence for Su Fang to live in. Furthermore, he specially created a palace outside the cave residence for Ling Xiangmei to live in. His doting towards Su Fang was simply to the point that it made people furious. Su Fang continued to settle in his cultivation state. During this time, the prehistoric inflammation stripped off a portion of the flame essence for Su Fang, causing Su Fang's fire cloud emperor physique to transform once again. His cultivation also rapidly stabilized at the 8th heavenly layer of True God realm and continued to climb towards the 9th heavenly layer. The 58th Yang meridian was also about to be born. The prehistoric inflammation had a huge effect on Su Fang's cultivation of the 9 suns' 9 transformations. However, in order to birth a new Yang meridian, he still needed an opportunity. This time, using the prehistoric inflammation to attack the Yang meridian had already lost the effect of the first time. After such a long period of settling in, coupled with the purple Qi Law Spirit's ability to communicate and control the world, Su Fang's mastery of various cultivation methods and magical powers had reached a deeper level and reached a new height. The world tree and inner world had also improved, but the speed of improvement was very slow. The cultivation of the world was not something that could be achieved overnight in a few thousand years. The time of his duel with Fan Su was approaching. One was the young master of the cloudy divine realm, who was extraordinarily talented. The other was a genius who rose rapidly like a blazing sun. The blood oath battle between the two of them was highly anticipated. The outcome of the battle was actually not difficult to predict. Although Su Fang's cultivation was far inferior to Fan Su's, he had fused with the prehistoric inflammation, a prehistoric treasure. Moreover, in the Sui Yu cave, Su Fang had the ability to instantly kill Fan Chong. Fan Su's cultivation was at the same level as Fan Chong's. In addition, his life divine weapon was destroyed, so his strength was not small. How could he fight against Su Fang now? It was not only strength, but also identity. In the past, Fan Su could use his identity as the young master of Sanskrit to bully and even humiliate Su Fang. Now that Su Fang had the support of the 3 divine kings, no matter how domineering Sanskrit was, they would not dare to act recklessly. Unless they asked the main branch of Sanskrit to step in. However, the blood oath battle between Fan Su and Su Fang could not be cancelled even if the main branch of Sanskrit stepped in. Unless Sanskrit sent an expert to kill Su Fang, Fan Su would be able to save his life. In that case, Sanskrit would lose a lot of face. An ancient divine clan like Sanskrit valued their reputation the most. They would not sacrifice the reputation of the entire Sanskrit for a mere collateral descendant. However, given Sanskrit's domineering nature, they would not easily give up on Fan Su and allow him to be publicly killed by an outsider. Many people in Kuan Su's divine realm, the cloudy divine realm, and even the star billow divine realm were watching this battle to the death. In the cold and desolate chaotic void, a huge flying sword that was hundreds of meters long released streaks of sword radiance. It was like a battleship riding the wind and breaking the waves in the sea, releasing a protective divine might that pulverized the terrifying chaotic turbulence and the various monsters that occasionally charged out of the chaotic void. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the huge sword streaked across the endless void. Its speed was second only to Su Fang's sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. On the huge sword, a middle-aged man stood loftily. This person was dressed in a silver robe. He had a cold, handsome face, sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. As the light in his eyes flashed, a terrifying scene of the evolution of time flashed past. It made people feel as if they would be trapped in the long river of time with just one glance. This middle-aged man exuded a fierce and domineering aura. His aura was ethereal and unfathomable. A youth stood beside the middle-aged man. He looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. His face looked a little immature, but he was extraordinarily handsome and exuded a noble aura. His eyes carried a look of disdain, as if nothing in the world could enter his eyes. This youth's cultivation was astonishing. He had reached the height of a seventh heaven celestial god. To have such a cultivation at such a young age was indeed a little shocking. "Father, you've made a trip personally for a stray bastard. Aren't you making a big fuss over nothing?" the youth said, his tone full of disdain. "I heard that this child's talent is quite extraordinary. Although it's far inferior to yours, he's still my nephew and also your cousin. Moreover, this matter concerns Sanskrit. It's only right for me to make a trip myself. If he's really as extraordinary as the rumors say, it's not impossible for me to bestow upon him a fortune and bring him back to the G people." Chapter 1918. Kuan Su's God Realm is in sight. What did Baba read? Oh, the flying sword under the middle-aged man's feet quickly shrunk and turned into a Xian Guang before being sucked into the air. "Let's go and see what kind of trash my nephew is. He actually made a big shot from Sanskrit personally come out to greet me." The middle-aged man released a divine aura that enveloped the youth. Then, he broke through the air and arrived outside the world barrier of Kuan Su's God Realm. "Kuan Su, come out and see me," the middle-aged man said majestically. As soon as his voice fell, a shocking divine aura exploded and landed on the world barrier of Kuan Su's God Realm. The huge mountain of Kuan Su suddenly sank. The world barrier shattered layer by layer and almost collapsed. The huge mountain shook as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Who knew how many peaks and buildings collapsed? Only those experts at the level of the great realm masters could have such shocking divine aura. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Kuan Su and many experts from Kuan Su's divine sect appeared one after another. When Kuan Su saw that the entire Kuan Su's God Realm was in a mess, he was furious. However, he had no choice but to suppress his anger. This kind of expert was not someone he could provoke. Kuan Su cupped his fists and asked the middle-aged man, "May I ask why Sir summoned me?" "G people Kuan Su, I came especially for Mo Fenghua," the middle-aged man said indifferently. From beginning to end, he did not look at Kuan Su at all. "G people? G people's experts from the G people's direct bloodline?" Kuan Su's divine aura changed instantly. After receiving the middle-aged man's accurate answer, Kuan Su Master's eyes reveal a look of awe. Kuan Su naturally knew about the matter between Mo Shangtsang and the G people's woman. At this time, the G people's experts came to Kuan Su's divine sect aggressively. Obviously, they did not come with good intentions. Kuan Su began to worry about Xian Lingzi and Su Fang. "My lord, please come to the main hall and have a seat. I will ask Mo Fenghua to come and greet Senior," Master Kuan Su said respectfully. Seeing Kuan Su being so respectful, Ji Ong snorted coldly and followed Master Kuan Su to the peak of the huge mountain. Kuan Su immediately transmitted his primordial spirit to Xian Lingzi. Su Fang was highly regarded by the three divine kings and had an unfathomable background. Naturally, Master Kuan Su didn't want anything to happen to him. At the same time, he secretly told Xian Lingzi to make preparations in advance. Ji people, someone really came. Although Xian Lingzi and Su Fang had long expected that the Ji people's experts would come, they didn't expect that they would come unexpectedly when the life and death battle with Fan Su was about to begin. They were both surprised and shocked. 3 great masters, Feng Hua is in danger. Come. Xian Lingzi immediately crushed a rune talisman. This rune talisman was a special rune talisman that the 3 divine kings left for Xian Lingzi when they left Kuan Su's divine sect. In an emergency situation, he could use the rune talisman to send a message to the 3 divine kings in the distant star below divine realm. Feng Hua, don't be afraid. Grandpa will take care of everything for you. The 3 great masters will come soon. I don't believe that no matter how overbearing the Ji people are, they can't force you to return to your sect. Xian Lingzi kept comforting Su Fang. Then, he brought Su Fang to the main hall at the peak of the mountain. You are Mo Feng Hua? Ji Ang's indifferent eyes swept over Su Fang. Su Fang felt that he had been seen through from head to toe, as if he had no secrets to speak of. Su Fang had the life-shrinking technique to conceal his true aura. Even Shenjia Tianjun couldn't see through him. Ji Ang's strength was slightly inferior to Shenjia Tianjun's, so he naturally wasn't afraid of being seen through. Su Fang also secretly used his great perfection ability to sense Ji Ang unfathomable. This was the terrifying feeling that Ji Ang gave Su Fang. What especially surprised Su Fang was that in Ji Ang's aura, other than the ancient aura that was unique to the ancient divine clan, there was a very familiar aura of the great Tao of time. It was extremely similar to Shu Yunkong's aura. Su Fang inwardly speculated, obviously, after the Ji people chased after Master, they also annexed Master's family and obtained the great Tao of time. Therefore, Jiang also cultivated this great Tao of time. Moreover, his attainment in the great Tao of time is even greater than Master Shu Yunkong's. At such a young age, you have the cultivation of the 8th firmament of true God. Moreover, you have fused with a prehistoric treasure like the prehistoric inflammation. Your talent and luck are both not bad, Jiang said majestically. The youth standing behind him slightly raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a disdainful expression. However, there was a trace of greed in his deep eyes. Clearly, he was interested in Su Fang's prehistoric inflammation. Thank you for your praise, Lord. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed. With his current strength, he naturally couldn't fight against the incomparably powerful Ji people. He had to lower his head. Your mother, Ji Bing, is my twin sister. However, your father came from a lowly background and tainted the purity of our supreme Ji people's woman. He deserved to die. The Ji people originally wouldn't allow people with our bloodline to wander outside. It was because of my personal appearance that you were able to live. Otherwise, I would have already killed a bastard like you. Ji Ang spoke slowly as if he was saying something that should be expected. Xian Lingzi raised his white eyebrows. Flames of anger burned in his eyes. However, he had to swallow his anger. Although Jiang's words were directed at Mo Fenghua's father, Mo Shangtsang, Su Fang felt the same way. A strong sense of humiliation rose from the bottom of his heart. Ji Ang saw the expressions of Xian Lingzi and Su Fang. He laughed in disdain and continued, as expected of someone with our Ji people's bloodline. Your cultivation talent and luck are both extraordinary. You barely qualify to return to our clan. If your performance in the future is outstanding, I promise to give you the surname Ji and raise you as a genius. The youth behind Ji Ang smiled and said, Father, why don't you let him follow me and be my follower? Otherwise, looking at his stupid appearance, wouldn't he be eaten alive by those people in the clan? Xingyue is still the most thorough. Then I'll leave him to you to train. Jiang nodded. The higher-ups of Kuan Su's divine sect all looked at Su Fang with envious eyes. How powerful were the Ji people's divine sect? To be able to return to the G people's divine sect, in their eyes, was a great fortune that fell from the heavens. It could be said that they would soar to the heavens. As for the humiliation that Su Fang suffered at this time, these higher-ups did not consider it. In the myriad of worlds, if they couldn't even bear this little bit of pettiness, how could they talk about cultivation? How could they become strong? Probably only Master Kuan Su felt unusually angry for his good friend Xian Lingzi. However, in the face of the powerful Ji people, Master Kuan Su did not dare to make a sound. The Ji Ong in front of him was not a side branch of the divine sect like the cloudy divine sect, but a direct descendant of the Ji people. He was not someone that he, the master of a small realm, dared to offend. Xian Lingzi said in a low voice, "Lord Jiang, Fenghua's surname is Mo. He is my grandson." Jiang snorted. "Surname Mo? It's just a lowly surname that can be easily erased. Xian Lingzi, who do you think you are? Are you worthy to let the possessor of our Ji people's bloodline take your surname? Ji people, don't go too far." Xian Lingzi was furious. His son died in the hands of the Ji people, and now he wanted to take away his grandson. How could Xian Lingzi not be angry? Ji Ong said indifferently, "If it weren't for Ji Bing, I would have exterminated your Mo family. Now that I'm bullying you, what can you do? Ji people, you're going too far." Xian Lingzi was burning with anger. He took a step forward, and a violent aura was released. "Xian Lingzi, don't be impulsive." Master Kuan Su flashed in front of Xian Lingzi. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Let's settle our past grievances." Ji Ong stood up, his eyes exuding a cold, killing intent. Suddenly, "Ji Ong, this is the territory of the Star Billow Divine Realm, not your Ji people. How dare you act recklessly?" A figure appeared at the entrance of the hall. It was the three divine kings. "Third, I came to Kuan Su's divine sect to take away the children of the Ji people who were stranded outside. When did I act recklessly?" Ji Eng's brows furrowed. It was obvious that he was a little wary of the three divine monarchs. The three divine kings snorted. "There are only children with the surname Mo here. Where are the children of the Ji people?" Jiang looked at Su Fang. "Follow me back to the Ji people. I promise you your future achievements will be limitless." Swish, swish, swish. Everyone's eyes fell on Su Fang. Su Fang raised his head and said resolutely, "Master Jiang, I don't care if I'm lowly or noble. My surname is Mo, not Ji. Please go back. In the end, you're a lowly bastard. You don't know how to appreciate kindness." The youth behind Jiang sneered. Jiang waved his hand and said indifferently, "The Ji people have countless geniuses. You're one of them. Since you don't want to return to the sect, I won't force you." Su Fang didn't expect Jiang to give up so easily. He couldn't help but be surprised. Sure enough, Jiang changed the topic, however. "I have been entrusted by an old friend. There is one thing that I have to do in passing. Mo Fenghua, take the initiative to cancel the blood oath with Fan Su." "Cancel the blood oath?" Su Fang raised his eyebrows. A fierce killing intent suddenly emerged in his heart. The blood oath was an extreme oath passed down from ancient times. Once a blood oath was made, the oath would only be cancelled if one party died. It could be said that the oath wouldn't end until one party died. Now that Jiang asked Su Fang to cancel the blood oath, it was equivalent to taking Su Fang's life. However, Jiang said it so calmly, as if he was talking about something insignificant. The Ji clan's tyrannical way of doing things and their ruthless methods could be seen from this. The three divine kings shouted, "Jiang, although the Ji people are powerful, the Star Billow God realm isn't a pushover. You can do whatever you want." Jiang revealed a domineering aura. "Since Mo Fenghua isn't willing to join the Ji people, I'll let him be. He has the bloodline of the Ji people. This is an indisputable fact. I'm his uncle. I naturally have the right to interfere with his matters. Third, who are you to him? How dare you stop me?" Since you don't want to cancel the blood oath, I'll do it for you. Remember my name. The person who killed you, Ji Xingyue. Chapter 1919. Jiang originally thought that the three divine kings and Xian Lingzi would stop him, so he was prepared to fight. Who knew that the two of them were indifferent and full of confidence in Su Fang? Jiang couldn't help but be surprised. Do they think this little bastard has the ability to defeat Xingyue? Su Fang used his movement technique, Earth Ripple Step, and borrowed the power of the earth. At the same time, he activated his flying divine weapon and retreated. Ji Xingyue, you're just a useless person who relies on the power of the Ji people. I, Mo Fenghua, don't dare to fight you, but that doesn't mean you can defeat me. Su Fang shouted as he retreated, looking furious. Do I need to rely on the power of the Ji people to kill a bastard like you? Ji Xingyue sneered in disdain and attacked Su Fang fiercely. Su Fang's winged divine weapon was a pinnacle middle-grade divine weapon that the three divine lords had painstakingly forged. Su Fang had unleashed almost all of its power, and coupled with his movement divine ability, Ji Xingyue was unable to do anything to Su Fang despite his extraordinary strength. Bastard, fight me head-on if you have the guts. Ji Xingyue originally thought that suppressing a true immortal would be an easy task, but who knew that things didn't go as he wished. After all, he was young, and although his cultivation wasn't bad, his Dao heart lacked stability, so he quickly became anxious. Ji Xingyue, fight me head-on if you don't have the guts. Su Fang taunted. Ji Ong said in a low voice, I promise you that as long as you can defeat Xingyue, I won't interfere in your life and death battle with Fan Su, and I won't force you to return to the Ji people. If you lose, you can either obediently return to the Ji people with me, or cancel your blood oath with Fan Su. Thank you, Lord Jiang. Su Fang suddenly laughed domineeringly. Instead of retreating, he advanced and attacked Ji Xingyue. You're courting death. Moon erosion technique, suppress. Ji Xingyue snickered in disdain and formed an astonishing hand seal. The pure white Xian Guang condensed into a bright full moon, emitting a cold aura. The moonlight shrouded Su Fang, making Su Fang feel as if his divine body and divine aperture were frozen. Then, the full moon quickly turned into a half moon, as if a lunar eclipse was taking place. What was even more strange was that the moonlight that enveloped Su Fang's body also dispersed. At the same time, it also took away Su Fang's life force. Shen Yuan and Yuan Shen aura were also rapidly disappearing. You think you can suppress me, Mo Fenghua, with your petty tricks? Break! Su Fang punched out. Boom! Boom! The illusory images of 9 mountains condensed around him, and they quickly became real. Moreover, the mountains exuded an astonishing flame divine might, as if they were 9 real volcanoes. Wherever the divine might of the flames swept out, the strange power of the lunar eclipse instantly vanished. Then, the 9 mountains flew towards Ji Xingyue, and the terrifying force of the collision caused his flesh to become a bloody mess. Blood splattered everywhere, and the sound of bones shattering could be heard from his body. At the same time, a flame with a primordial aura wrapped around Ji Xingyue's body, and it burned furiously. Ji Eng's divine light instantly changed. After forming a hand seal, he shot out a gray Xian Guang that landed on Ji Xingyue's body. An astonishing power of time circulated around Ji Xingyue's body. Time flowed in reverse around Ji Xingyue's body, and the flames on his body were quickly extinguished. The injuries on his divine body also rapidly healed. In the short span of 5 breaths, Ji Xingyue had returned to normal, as if nothing had happened to him. The great Tao of time was just that astonishing. It could actually reverse the flow of time and reverse events that had already occurred. Although Ji Xingyue had been saved by Jiang, he still felt a lingering fear. He looked at Su Fang in disbelief. What kind of divine ability was that? It could actually break through my supreme divine ability? Su Fang raised the corner of his mouth and said in disdain, Why would I need a powerful divine ability to deal with you? What I used just now was merely the art of driving mountain that all outer sect disciples of the Kuan Su divine sect can use. It was you who was too weak, not my divine ability that was too powerful. Ji Xingyu was a proud and arrogant person. When had he ever been ridiculed like this? He couldn't help but feel embarrassed and angry. Ji Ong said coldly, "It was indeed the art of driving mountain. To be able to use the art of driving mountain to the extreme, combined with the prehistoric inflammation, it has such power. Mo Fenghua, you have truly surprised me. I'll ask you again. Returning Ji people, if I give you an identity and status that matches your cultivation talent, are you willing?" Su Fang said decisively, "Sorry, I'm not interested in Ji people." "Then it's truly a pity." Jiang shook his head and sighed, looking very regretful. In the next moment, a cold light flashed through Ji Ang's deep eyes. The life-shrinking technique and heaven's expansion mystic solution caused Su Fang to feel a strong sense of danger. He didn't hesitate to activate the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. However, it was too late. Facing Jiang, who had the strength of a great realm master, Su Fang had no room to react. Jiang quickly formed a dazzling hand seal. An aura of the great Tao of time quickly spread out. The power of time condensed into ethereal divine marks, interweaving into a formation. It covered an area of 30 meters and shackled Su Fang in the center. "Jiang, you went back on your word and attacked a true god junior." The three divine kings and Xian Lingzi roared at the same time and charged towards Jiang, who knew that Ji Eng's figure would shatter under their attack. Jiang and Ji Xingyu calmly walked out of the main hall. The three divine kings and Xian Lingzi were stunned. Then, Xian Lingzi burst out with another divine ability, shattering Jiang and Ji Xingyu's figures again. Ji Eng's cold laughter came from outside the main hall. "What you saw, including the voice you heard, was me from 10 breaths ago. There's a difference of 10 breaths between you and me. How can you do anything to me? The time divine ability is so exquisite and powerful." Everyone in the main hall was shocked. "I only used the time divine ability to create a formation to shackle Mo Fenghua for a period of time. It won't harm his life, so I didn't go back on my promise. However, there's something special about my formation. It's called the Great Vicissitudes Formation. The flow of time inside the formation is a little slower than outside, but not by much. It's only 1,000 times slower than the outside world. With Mo Fenghua's current strength, he'll be able to walk out of the formation after 10,000 years. As for the time outside, it'll be 10 million years. When he comes out, the outside world will have changed. As for whether he'll be able to fulfill the blood oath, I can't guarantee." Ji Eng's cold voice with a hint of complacency came from outside the main hall. Then, Ji Xingyue's arrogant voice sounded. "A bastard dares to reject the good intentions of the Ji people. You don't know what's good for you." Xian Lingzi let out a thunderous roar and rushed out of the main hall. How could he still see Ji Ong and his son? "Xian Lingzi, I'm afraid things aren't looking good." Although the three divine kings weren't as strong as Ji Ong, they were still famous blacksmiths. After carefully observing the time divine formation for a while, their faces revealed a worried expression. Xian Lingzi looked into the depths of the formation. Affected by the time divine ability, he could only see a chaotic space. He couldn't see Su Fang's shadow at all. Xian Lingzi took out a supreme-grade flying sword. After activating it, it shot into the formation. Layers of time divine ability continuously corroded the flying sword. This supreme-grade flying sword flew less than 3 meters in the formation. The Xian Guang quickly dissipated and the heavenly mark collapsed. The body of the sword quickly became rusty and finally turned into a pile of ashes that scattered in the formation. Then, Xian Lingzi transmitted his voice and primordial spirit's voice to the formation. Whether it was the voice or the primordial spirit's voice, they were eroded layer by the time divine ability. Before being transmitted to the formation, they disappeared. Xian Lingzi was worried about Su Fang's safety. He peeled off a yang spirit and went straight for the formation. In the formation, the yang spirit rapidly aged and finally collapsed. Even the primordial spirit also collapsed. Any matter or power in the world couldn't resist the passage of time divine ability. This was the terror of the great Tao of time. Master Kuan Su said in shock, "What a terrifying great vicissitudes formation. Even if the realm lord of the star billow divine realm personally came, it would be difficult to break the formation." The three divine kings said in a deep voice, "Jiang clearly wants Mo Fenghua to be trapped in the formation and miss the life and death battle with Fan Su. Mo Fenghua will suffer the backlash of the blood oath battle contract and die in the formation. Jiang, I, Mo Xianling, am absolutely irreconcilable with you." Xian Lingzi roared in anger and despair. The three divine kings hesitated for a moment, then transmitted their primordial spirit to Xian Lingzi. Such a large formation, other than experts who are proficient in the great Tao of time, no one can break it. Fellow Xianling, don't lose your sense of propriety. I tried to contact Grandmaster. It's not that there's no hope of rescuing Mo Fenghua. Three great masters, Grandmaster? Xian Lingzi was startled and then shocked. The three divine kings were already the #1 artificers in the star billow divine realm. What kind of terrifying existence was his Grandmaster? Xian Lingzi was immediately surprised and happy, hope igniting in his heart. Who knew that the three divine kings would continue? Grandmaster has never dabbled in the great Tao of time, and he's currently in a critical moment of seclusion. I don't dare to say whether we can contact him or rescue Mo Fenghua. Xian Lingzi looked at the formation and began to worry again. Inside the Great Vicissitudes formation, Su Fang activated the Great Perfection Stage ability, and at the same time used the Heaven Prying Eye. He carefully observed the formation, and his expression became incomparably solemn. This formation was different from other ordinary formations. Even with the Yellow Spring Blood Seas ability, it was difficult to escape the terrifying power of time. Using brute force to break the formation obviously wouldn't work. With Su Fang's current True God Realm cultivation, it was almost impossible to use brute force to break a formation created by an expert equivalent to a great realm master. Su Fang settled down for a moment, and his heart quickly calmed down from the initial panic. It's not that there's no way. I can join forces with senior sister Shu Wanjin to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror, and we should be able to destroy this formation. However, this way, the secret of the Origin Sacred Mirror will definitely be lost. Also, there's another way. Chapter 1920. Ji People's Grand Tao of Time was stolen from Shu Yunkong's master's family. I happen to have master's understanding of the Grand Tao of Time and his family's secret manual. I can cultivate and break the array at the same time and improve my understanding of the Grand Tao of Time in the process. It's definitely more effective than cultivating in seclusion. I seem to be trapped this time, but in fact, Jiang has created a great opportunity for me to train. As for the blood oath with Fan Su, Su Fang smiled proudly. If he couldn't get out of the array on the day of the battle, Su Fang definitely wouldn't have to worry about the backlash of the blood oath. He had the life-shrinking technique, a supreme divine power of fate. At most, he could erase the power of the blood oath from the karma of fate. With my current strength, I can easily trample Fan Su under my feet. He's not important to me at all. It doesn't matter if he lives a few more years. The most important thing is the Divine Prince competition. How long has it been since I became a cultivator to reach my current height? I don't believe that I can't break the array before the Divine Prince competition. Destroying was always much easier than creating. It was the same for breaking arrays. Su Fang had the heavenly divination solution, a supreme divine power that could spy on the secrets of heaven and earth. He also had the supreme luck brought by the purple Qi Dharma spirit, the ability to understand the Grand Tao and the all-encompassing chaotic divine personality. With all these abilities and divine powers, even if he couldn't cultivate the grand Tao of time to the extreme before the Divine Prince competition, he should still be very confident in breaking the array. After making the decision, Su Fang was relieved. He took out the time cave abode and entered it. The flow of time inside the time cave abode was faster than outside, but the power of time released by Ji Eng's vicissitudes grand array was the opposite. The power of time inside the time cave abode couldn't offset the power of the array, but it could still be of some use. Su Fang formed a hand seal to break his body and cast the Acheron blood sea, forming many blood clones. He separated his primordial spirit consciousness and used them to cultivate various cultivation arts, divine powers, or merge with divine artifacts, mainly the sky-breaking rainbow shuttle. At the same time, Su Fang formed his original body in the blood sea and focused on cultivating the grand Tao of time. With a thought, 2 golden jade slips appeared in front of the main body. These 2 jade slips were the 2 that his master, Shu Yunkong, had given to Su Fang before he sealed himself. One of them stored Shu Yunkong's comprehension of the great Tao of time, while the other contained the inheritance of Shu Yunkong's family. Master, there will be a day when I will cultivate the great Tao of time to the extreme and possess the strength of a great world's world lord. Then, I will find a way to help you recover. If that's not enough, I will create a reincarnation cycle in my inner world. Even if I have to go against the heavens, I will save you. Su Fang thought of Shu Yunkong, who was sealed in his bodily world. He then thought of Yao He old immortal. His heart was filled with sorrow, but at the same time, he was filled with a firm conviction. Then, Su Fang separated his consciousness and sank it into the 2 jade slip. He immersed himself within and continued to cultivate and comprehend. Time flew. Unknowingly, more than 300 years had passed in the outside world. Xianlingzi, the 3 divine kings, Ling Xiangmei, Count Chong, and the others had also spent more than 300 years in anxiety and worry. Outside the main hall, 2 figures had appeared out of nowhere. They were clearly standing there, but no one inside or outside the hall had noticed their presence. One of them was a middle-aged man with an elegant face. He was the master of the 3 divine kings, Mo Tiangong. At this moment, Mo Tiangong's aura had become even more illusory. His every move was in harmony with the heavens and the earth. It was obvious that he had reached a new height. The other person was an old man with a white beard. He wore a simple linen short-sleeved shirt with his trousers and sleeves rolled up. He looked like an old farmer. Blacksmith Mo, you came all the way here just to save a little guy in the true God realm? Do you think that I have too much free time, or are you trying to fool me? The old farmer's eyes flashed with an illusory divine light. What appeared in his eyes was the scene of Su Fang cultivating in the cavern of time. Ji Eng's great vicissitudes formation and Su Fang's cavern of time could not block his gaze. What kind of person was Mo Tiangong? This old man actually called Mo Tiangong Blacksmith Mo. It could be seen that this person was at least as powerful as Mo Tiangong. Farmer, don't underestimate this little guy. He is not an ordinary person. He is not inferior to the few seedlings you have your eyes on. He is a cultivator who ascended from a macro world. He has cultivated a lot of things. He is somewhat famous. However, what right does he have to be mentioned in the same breath as the seedlings I have my eyes on? The weakest seedlings I have my eyes on is the master of a small world. Who does this true God realm kid think he is? The old man who Mo Tiangong called farmer had actually exposed Su Fang's background. However, he still snorted at Su Fang. I didn't expect that a farmer like you would have a time when you are wrong. Mo Tiangong laughed. Do you still remember the heavenly wave vision that appeared not long ago? You are saying that the heavenly wave vision is related to this little guy. The old man's eyes changed slightly. Then, a bright light flashed in his eyes. He carefully sized up Su Fang. His eyes gradually brightened. Interesting, he is indeed a little interesting. This little guy has cultivated an inner world. Moreover, he has something that even I can't see through. He can even attract the heavenly way vision. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. Unfortunately, he is too weak. Only a little interesting? Farmer, not only is your eyesight bad, you are simply blind. Mo Tiangong inexplicably snorted. Then, he continued, I was fortunate enough to have a breakthrough because of his enlightenment. This little guy's level in the way of weapon refining is so high that even I have to admire him. Farmer, if such a person can't even enter your eyes, then you might as well gouge your eyeballs out. There is such a thing? The old man was very shocked. He once again looked at Su Fang. If that is the case, then treat this little guy as a seedling candidate. Watch how he performs in the future. Let's save him first. The old man nodded and was about to enter the formation to save Su Fang. Right at this moment, Su Fang's original body suddenly flew out of the time and space cavern. Then, he raised his head and looked outside the formation. His eyes revealed a puzzled look. The old man outside the palace was shocked. He can actually sense my existence. A true immortal realm expert actually has such ability. This is simply heaven-defying. Mo Tiangong also revealed a look of surprise. It was too unbelievable. Subsequently, Su Fang suddenly formed hand seals. Numerous hand seals that dazzled the eyes emitted a mysterious aura of time. The vicissitudes grand formation that Ji Ong had personally created actually shook, and at least over 100 seals that contained the laws of the grand Tao of time shattered. The divine power released by the formation also weakened. Although it was somewhat insignificant, it was still weakened. My comprehension is not bad, but it is far from enough to break the formation. Su Fang muttered to himself for a while. Then, he returned to the time and space cavern. Monster, this kid is simply a monster. The old man and Mo Tiangong looked at each other. Their eyes were bright as if they had discovered a peerless treasure. The old man also gave up on the idea of entering the formation to save Su Fang. Mo Tiangong said, let him cultivate in the formation. This great vicissitudes formation is a shackle for him, but it is also an opportunity. However, he has a blood oath with that Sanskrit kid. There is not much time left. We have to find a way to solve it for him. He's just a kid from a side branch of Sanskrit. Just greet the old ghost from the main branch of Sanskrit, the old man said indifferently. Then, the two sat down outside the palace and watched Su Fang's every move. Cloudy realm. On a floating mountain in the divine capital. Inside the cavern, Fan Su and Xia Yunji were having sex. Suddenly, Fan Su panted like a wild beast and fell from the peak of bliss. Fan Su sat up and put on a Taoist robe with a gloomy face. Brother Su, are you thinking about that trash again? Xia Yunji leaned over and asked with concern. Then, she sneered and her eyes were full of resentment and joy. That trash is shackled by Lord Ji Eng's great vicissitudes formation. He won't be able to walk out of the formation without tens of millions of years. It wouldn't be long before he died from the backlash of the blood oath because he couldn't fulfill it. Brother Su, why are you worrying about a dead person? Fan Su said hatefully, not long ago, Mo Fenghua was kneeling at my feet and licking my shoes. Now, I have no choice but to use this method to escape the blood oath. To me, this is tantamount to a great humiliation. How can I let go of this anger in my heart? Xia Yunji smiled and said, in short, that trash is dead, but Brother Su is alive and well. Fan Su nodded and said, yes, I'm still alive. As long as I'm alive, there are endless possibilities. But that trash turned into a pile of dust. Fan Su. A nascent spirit suddenly came through the void and condensed into a lifelike shadow in the cave. It was Sanskrit's Elder Een. Elder! Fan Su quickly stood up and bowed to Elder Een. Xia Yunji panicked and put on a Taoist robe to cover her body. The shadow of Elder Yin's primordial spirit said majestically, Fan Su, you should end your own life. Boom. Fan Su's head buzzed. He looked at Elder Een in disbelief. Elder, what do you mean by this? Elder Een said coldly, the blood oath between you and Mo Fenghua states that if you fight, you won't be able to defeat him. If you don't fight, you'll be ridiculed. No matter what the result is, it will damage Sanskrit's reputation. Therefore, the clan's upper echelons have decided to let you kill yourself immediately to protect our clan's reputation. Fan Su said angrily, Mo Fenghua will die without a doubt. Why should I fight him? It's because Mo Fenghua won't die that you must die. Chapter 1921. That trash didn't die? Lord Jiang personally created the Great Vicissitudes formation, how could he not die? Who dared to offend Lord Jiang and break the formation to save him? How could he not die? Fan Su exclaimed in disbelief. 8 Read Book 2 √3 Cento. The Silver Old Man said coldly, I have no right to know why Mo Fenghua didn't die. I'm here to deliver the Sanskrit's higher-ups' order for you to end your own life. I don't know anything else. The higher-ups didn't ask the main branch's experts or Lord Jiang to save me. Do they dare to go against the will of the main branch's experts? Fan Su roared unwillingly. The Silver Old Man said, to save you and protect our clan's face, the Sanskrit's higher-ups of the cloudy divine realm asked the main branch's experts to help. This time, it wasn't the cloudy divine realm's higher-ups who ordered you to end your own life, but the main branch's higher-ups. No one can change that. After a pause, the Silver Old Man sighed, Fan Su, you still don't understand. Behind Mo Fenghua is a powerful existence that even the main branch's higher-ups have to be wary of. That's why they had to sacrifice you. How is that possible? Fan Su's body trembled, and his face turned pale as he collapsed to the ground. Xia Yunji was dumbfounded, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Mo Fenghua. His grandfather was Xianlingzi, but he was only the head of Kuan Su divine sect's Xian Ling Dao Right. He was a respectable figure in Kuan Su divine sect, but compared to a colossus like Sanskrit, he was just an ant-like existence. His father, Mo Shangtsang, was extremely talented, but he died prematurely and even offended the ancient Ji people. The Ji people couldn't possibly stand up for a bastard like Mo Fenghua. Could it be the 3 divine kings? The 3 divine kings were the #1 artificers in the Star Billow divine realm, but their influence was limited to the Star Billow divine realm. They definitely couldn't influence the higher-ups of Sanskrit's main branch. For a moment, Xia Yunji's mind was in chaos, and her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Shock, disbelief, and intense regret. If she knew this was going to happen, why would she abandon Mo Fenghua and cling to Fan? Fan Su, you died for Sanskrit's reputation, so Sanskrit won't treat you unfairly. After you die, Sanskrit will give you a grand funeral. When you die. As for your woman, since you like her, then let her accompany you in death. Elder Yin's voice was calm, but it was so cold. Xia Yunji collapsed to the ground, her face full of despair and unwillingness. Kuan Su divine sect. In the main hall at the top of the giant mountain, Xianlingzi, the 3 divine lords, Kuan Su Shangren, and the others were waiting outside the Vicissitudes' great expansion formation. The day of the blood oath between Mo Fenghua and Fan Su was about to arrive. However, Su Fang still did not make any movements in the array formation. If he did not fulfill the agreement, he would suffer the backlash of the blood oath and die without a doubt. The 3 Fire Divine Lord tried to contact Mo Tiangong, but there was no news. How could they not be worried? At this time, Xianlingzi's head had turned completely gray. He was lifeless, like a dying man. Suddenly, Ling Xiangmei rushed into the hall. Her face was filled with shock and ecstasy. Master Kuan Su asks in a deep voice, Elder Ling, what happened? Ling Xiangmei laughed, good news, very good news. Everyone's attention was attracted. Then, they were shocked by the news Ling Xiangmei brought. The turbid cloud realm suddenly announced that Fan Su knew that he was no match for Mo Fenghua because she was unable to fulfill the blood oath. For the sake of the Brahma race's reputation, he had committed suicide several days ago. Xia Yunji also died for Fan Su. Everyone was ecstatic. Xian Lingzi was so excited that he fainted. Since Fan Su died, the blood oath was cancelled. Su Fang wouldn't be affected by the blood oath. Even if he stayed in the formation for millions of years, he would be safe. The only regret was that Su Fang wouldn't be able to participate in the Kamiko Hoshino tournament 80,000 years later. He would miss this opportunity to soar. However, Su Fang was lucky to be able to keep his life. Xian Lingzi didn't ask for much. The three Fire Divine Lord guessed that it must have been Grandmaster Mo Tiangong who pressured Fan Su in secret. This forced Fan Su to kill himself and help Mo Fenghua resolve a life and death crisis. When Koan Su Master learned of Xia Yunji's death, he couldn't help but sigh helplessly. At the same time, he felt regret in his heart. If he hadn't allowed Xia Yunji to do whatever she wanted, how could she have lost her life? After all, Koan Su Shangren was the master of a realm. He naturally understood that Fan Su would not die for the sake of protecting the Brahma clan's reputation. Instead, he was forced to die by the powerful existence behind Su Fang. With such a powerful background, if his granddaughter and Su Fang became Dao companions, wouldn't Koan Su's status also rise? Outside the hall, Mo Tiangong and an old farmer sat cross-legged in the void. They merged with heaven and earth. No one could detect their existence. The old man said, "Blacksmith, that kid needs at least millions of years to get out of the formation. It's useless for us to stay here. Let's go back." Mo Tiangong said slowly, "Millions of years? Farmer, why don't we make a bet? If he can't get out of the vicissitudes formation in 1,000,000 years, I'll refine it for you for 1,000,000 years. If he comes out, you give me the dragon skin. How about it?" "You want this old man's dragon skin?" The old man immediately became alert. "That piece of dragon skin of mine is not the skin of an ordinary divine dragon. It is the skin shed by the first divine dragon that was born in the chaos at the beginning of the universe. It is also the ancestral dragon of all divine dragons. It is the skin shed during its first metamorphosis. It is one of a kind in the universe. If you want this supreme treasure, it won't be so easy." The old man revealed a complacent expression. Then the old man said, "However, seeing that our relationship is not bad, this old man will give you a chance. If this kid can get out of the formation in 1,000,000 years, the ancestor dragon skin is yours. Otherwise, you'll refine 10 fortune divine artifacts for this old man." 10 fortune divine artifacts? Farmer, you're too black-hearted. Mo Tiangong snorted coldly. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's a deal." Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years had passed. To a peerless expert like Mo Tiangong, 10,000 years was merely the time of a nap. The two of them sat cross-legged in the void without even moving their postures. Inside the vicissitudes formation, the flow of time was 1,000 times slower than outside. 10,000 years was only 10 years inside the formation. Su Fang had only spent a little more than 100 years inside the time cave dwelling. During this period of time, Su Fang exited the cave abode of time 3 times. Every time he exited, he would use the great Tao of time he comprehended to break the formation. The runes of the formation were constantly broken. However, he was still far from breaking the formation. On this day, Su Fang suddenly flew out from the time cave dwelling. His body spewed out a burst of tribulation chi that rapidly turned into tribulation fire. Inside the time cave dwelling, Su Fang continuously swallowed medicinal pills while cultivating the time grand Tao. At the same time, he also cultivated with the fire essence extracted from the World Lord's prehistoric inflammation. Unexpectedly, he broke through again, advancing to a new level. The tribulation fire and 9 yang divine fire continued to burn for more than a month. Su Fang's aura rose from the 8th layer to the 9th layer. The heavenly marks inside and outside his body also turned into 9th layer true God realm. The two peerless experts outside the hall were surprised. Then, the old farmer chuckled and said, "This kid's improvement speed is not slow. However, advancing to a new level won't help him much in breaking the formation. Blacksmith Mo, you've lost for sure this time." Mo Tiangong smiled confidently. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, another 30,000 years had passed. Su Fang had spent more than 300 years in the time cave dwelling. After flying out of the time cave dwelling once again, Su Fang suddenly formed a seal. A burst of time Grand Tao aura lingered around him. His entire body emitted a mysterious aura. Time flies like an arrow. Sun and moon fly like a shuttle. Arrow of time. Su Fang roared angrily. The power of time transformed into a black and white yin and yang qi that condensed into a 3 feet long arrow. It dragged a tail of light that transformed from a xian guang. With a shocking momentum of time annihilation, it shot towards the formation. Chi chi chi. This black and white arrow landed on the Great Vicissitudes formation. As the black and white chi swam and changed, a mysterious and terrifying power of time annihilation burst out. The formation shattered layer by layer. Su Fang took the opportunity to take 3 steps forward. After a distance of nearly 10 feet, the power of the black and white arrow was exhausted. Su Fang then stopped. The Great Vicissitudes formation that Ji Ong had created only covered an area of 10 feet. From the center of the formation to the periphery of the formation, Su Fang was only 15 feet away. At this moment, Su Fang's sudden burst of power had covered a distance of 10 feet. This was equivalent to covering 1/5 of the distance. It was truly astonishing. What Su Fang had used was the supreme power of time from the Shu Yunkong's family inheritance, the Arrow of Time. Not only could the Arrow of Time release the power of time annihilation and shatter time, but if cultivated to the extreme, it could also release a heaven-defying power that could increase or reverse time. However, using the Arrow of Time was the same as using the life-shrinking technique. It also had a price that deities could not bear. It consumed a large amount of life force. However, the difference was that the life-shrinking technique would cause the user to rapidly age. Their life force would be drained, and the cultivator's most precious life force would be damaged. On the other hand, using the Arrow of Time was the exact opposite. It would cause the cultivator's life force to reverse. They would rapidly turn from an adult into a youth, a child, or even an infant. Although they would seem younger, they would also lose life force. It was very difficult to make up for it. Even their cultivation level would decline along with it. After using the Arrow of Time for the first time, Su Fang rapidly turned into a 12 or 13-year-old child at a speed visible to the naked eye. His chi also weakened to the level of a first heaven true god. He almost fell to the mortal evolution state. Chapter 1922. Arrow of Time. Su Fang was overjoyed to have mastered another supreme ability, and it was also a supreme ability of the great Tao of Time. His eyes flashed with joy and excitement. 3 is not equal to 8. 3 is not equal to 8. 3 is not equal to reading. 3 is not equal to books? Oh, I still have to thank Jiang properly. If it weren't for him creating this formation of time, how could I have comprehended the great Tao of Time so much in such a short amount of time and grasp a supreme ability like the Arrow of Time? Thinking of Jiang, Su Fang's eyes flashed with a cold and sharp light. I've been trapped in the formation of time, and I don't know how much time has passed outside. Su Fang was in the formation. Although he didn't know the difference between the flow of time in the formation and the outside world, he could still sense the great difference between the inside and outside of the formation. Su Fang didn't have to worry about the blood oath between him and Fan Su. Of course, he didn't know that Fan Su had been forced to end his own life, and he didn't use the life-shrinking technique to erase the blood oath. Instead, he sensed that the binding force of the blood oath had imperceptibly disappeared. He didn't care much about the blood oath in the first place, and now he was even more relieved. I'll recover first, and then break out of the formation as quickly as possible. I can't miss the Kimiko Hoshino competition. Su Fong inspected his body, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Not only did he look like he was 12 or 13 years old, even his cultivation base had declined. The feeling of being a weakling made Su Fong feel powerless. Returning to the Cavern of Time, he immediately swallowed pills and spiritual objects, mainly pills and spiritual objects to replenish his blood qi, to recover the life force he had consumed. Su Fong used the arrow of time, and covered 1/5 of the distance in the formation. Mo Tiangong and the farmer-like old man were both surprised and shocked. Mo Tiangong said in shock, "Good boy, you have such astonishing comprehension ability, and you also happen to have a method to cultivate the great Tao of time. Your talent is high and your luck is strong. Even I can't help but be a little jealous." The old man looked even more shocked than Mo Tiangong. The importance of Su Fong in his heart immediately rose to a whole new level. Mo Tiangong stretched out his hand towards the old man and chuckled proudly. "Farmer, why haven't you brought me the ancestral dragon's skin?" The old man was startled and immediately revealed a pained expression. He shouted in dissatisfaction, "Blacksmith Mo, has he walked out of the array?" Mo Tiangong smiled and said, "Old thing, Mo Fenghua has grasped such an astonishing time divine art, and she still needs 1,000,000 years to walk out of the formation? If you want to go back on your word, just say it. I guarantee that the entire universe will know of your character." The old man was still as stubborn as ever as he said, "How can a mere true deity cast the great Tao of time? This time, he would need at least 10,000 years to recover, and he might not be able to recover completely. 10,000 years in the array, excluding the effect of that time artifact, at least 1,000,000 years would have passed outside. Before he could finish, the divine light penetrated the time divine power of the array and the barrier of the Cavern of Time. It saw the flames of life of Su Fong's yellow spring blood sea that were quickly ignited. His voice suddenly stopped. With Su Fong's current recovery speed, he would be able to recover to his peak state in less than 100 years. Why would he need 10,000 years? This little monster, you made me lose so badly. If I had known, I would have let the backlash of the blood oath kill you. Old thing, I'll give you the ancestral dragon's skin. Take it and use it as a burial cloth." The old man was furious. He gritted his teeth, but in the end, he still took out a roll of dragon skin that emitted an astonishing aura of life and directly rolled it towards Mo Tiangong. Then, he turned his head to the side, as if he couldn't bear to look anymore. Mo Tiangong laughed heartily. He grabbed the dragon's skin and clicked his tongue in amazement. The old man was so angry that his whole body trembled. Only then did Mo Tiangong put away the dragon's skin with satisfaction. The old man was unwilling to give up. His eyes flashed with a touch of determination. He gritted his teeth and said to Mo Tiangong, "Blacksmith, if you have the guts, let's make another bet." Mo Tiangong laughed and said, "Old thing, what else do you have that can tempt me?" The old man flipped his right hand, and a meteorite-like object appeared in his palm. This meteor was dark and only the size of a fist, yet it emitted a mysterious, vast, and ancient shocking aura. When one looked carefully, it was covered in numerous mysterious and ancient marks of the heavens, and they seemed to have been formed naturally. Primal Chaos Mother Gold. Old thing, you actually have such a precious treasure in your hands? Mo Tiangong's expression changed in an instant. His whole body trembled, and he completely lost his usual calm and refined demeanor. Obviously, he was shocked and excited by this meteorite. The so-called primal gold essence was a kind of metal that condensed from the chaos when heaven and earth were created. It was the #1 treasure for refining artifact. To an artificer like Mo Tiangong, it naturally had a fatal attraction. The old man said complacently, "This old man has many treasures in his hands, how can you guess what they are? How about it, are you interested in making another bet? If you have the ability, win this old man's primal gold essence as well?" Mo Tiangong's eyes shone brightly. "What kind of bet?" The old man said, "Let's bet on the time this kid takes to walk out of the formation. As long as he can walk out of the formation before the Kamiko Hoshino Summit competition starts, this primal gold essence will be yours. If he can't walk out of the formation, you have to obediently return the ancestral dragon's skin to this old man, and then refine 10 fortune divine artifacts for this old man. How about it? Old thing, do you think I'm an idiot? There are still more than 40,000 years until the Godchild Summit competition in the Star Billow Divine Realm. That kid is in the Great Vicissitudes formation, and even if he stays in the Time Cave, it will only be a mere 400 years. Moreover, this formation will become harder to break as it progresses, and the time it takes to break it will multiply. 400 years, no matter how heaven-defying a true God realm true God is, how can he break a great realm master's time formation? How can this old man fall for your evil tricks? Mo Tiangong shook his head and sneered, unwilling to be fooled. However, looking at the treasure in the old man's hand, Mo Tiangong's heart itched again. The temptation of the primal gold essence was just too great for him. The old man put away the primal gold essence. This old man will add another 100 fortune divine pills. If you still don't want to bet, then forget it. Old thing, you win, I'll bet with you. Mo Tiangong completely lost his refined demeanor, and his face was filled with determination. It's a deal. Ha ha ha, blacksmith, you've lost for sure this time. You'd better obediently return the ancestral dragon's skin to this old man, and then work as a coolie to refine equipment for this old man. The old man thought that he had succeeded and was very pleased. Mo Tiangong looked at the formation and began to worry about his gains and losses. Inside the time cavern, Su Fang crazily swallowed pills and spiritual items. The flames of life in the Yellow Springs blood sea gradually became more vigorous, and finally burned fiercely. 70 to 80 years passed in the time cavern, and a physical body condensed from the blood water. Su Fang had already recovered to his peak state, and his appearance was still 17 or 18 years old. His cultivation had also recovered to the 9th heaven of true God realm. Su Fang muttered to himself, "The price of using the time divine ability is too great. Moreover, I'm trapped here, and the pills and spiritual items on me will be exhausted in a long time. The Kamiko Hoshino competition is approaching, and I have to get out of the formation as soon as possible." After a moment of silence, then Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light. He reached out and grabbed, and over 100 mid-grade divine essence pills appeared in front of him. A surge of 9 yang divine fire swept out from the blood water and wrapped around the pills. After a series of huff and puff, the pills were refined. The refined pills were swept into the blood water by the 9 yang divine fire, and quickly merged with the blood water. After the majestic medicinal power was absorbed by the blood water, it caused Su Fang's cultivation to rise rapidly. At the same time, Su Fang continuously merged with the remaining prehistoric spirit flames, and also stripped the flame essence of the prehistoric inflammation from the mirror. However, he was not cultivating the 9 yang 9 transformations, nor was he cultivating the fire cloud emperor physique. Instead, he was rushing to the peak of the 9th heaven of true God realm. What is this kid doing? Even if he reaches the peak of the heavenly God realm now, what's the benefit? Su Fang's actions caused Mo Tiangong and the old farmer to be extremely surprised. They did not know what he was doing. 300 years passed in the cavern of time. After consuming a large amount of pills and spiritual items, especially the prehistoric spirit flames and the flame essence of the prehistoric inflammation, Su Fang raised his cultivation to the peak of the 9th heaven in 300 years. However, the consumption was also incomparably shocking. Before this, in order to prepare for the Kimiko Hoshino competition, Su Fang prepared a large amount of pills and spiritual items. At this time, almost all of them were used up. The prehistoric spirit flames were also used up, and he could no longer strip the flame essence of the prehistoric inflammation in a short period of time. Otherwise, it would harm its source. During this time, Su Fang also continued to comprehend the great Tao of time. Although he did not comprehend a new ability, the power of the arrow of time increased by a lot. In 300 years, Su Fang advanced another 20 feet in the formation, and was only 10 feet away from walking out of the formation. However, the further he advanced, the more difficult it was to break through the vicissitudes formation. Every step forward became extremely difficult. Su Fang estimated that if he used the arrow of time to break through the last 10 feet of the formation, it would be impossible without at least 500 years. This 500 years, of course, referred to the 500 years in the formation. Ha ha ha, blacksmith, why don't you obediently hand over the ancestral dragon's skin to this old man? This kid is not bad, he really is a good seedling. When he comes out, this old man will reward him well. Seeing that it was impossible for Su Fang to walk out of the formation before the Divine Sun competition, the old farmer was very pleased. He stretched out his hand and asked Emo Tiangong for the ancestral dragon's skin. This kid, what is he doing? Emo Tiangong's elegant face did not look so good, but he was unwilling to return the ancestral dragon's skin to the old man. There was less than 100 years until the Kimiko Hoshino competition. The 100 participating disciples of the Kuan-Su celestial sect had already left the Kuan-Su celestial realm and headed to the Star Billow celestial realm. At the same time, Master Kuan-Su and the higher-ups of the celestial sect had also brought a large group of disciples along to cheer for the participating disciples. In the main hall, only Xian Lingzi, Ling Xiangmei, Uncle Chong, and a few elders of the Xian Ling dojo were left. Chapter 1923. The upper echelons of Xian Ling dojo also sighed with regret. 8 Red Book 230. If not for being trapped in the Great Vicissitudes formation, Su Fang would definitely be able to blossom with unparalleled brilliance in this Kimiko Hoshino competition and become famous in the Star Billow Divine Realm, even if he could not become Kimiko Hoshino. In this way, Xian Lingzi and Xian Ling Dojo's status in Kuan-Su Divine Sect would naturally rise along with the tide. Now that Su Fang was trapped in the Great Vicissitudes formation, all hope was gone. As long as Fenghua is safe, I'm satisfied. Everything else doesn't matter. Xian Lingzi said, looking much older, but his spirit was still hale and hearty. There was only one Kimiko Hoshino competition. If he missed this opportunity, there would not be another in the future. However, to Xian Lingzi, as long as his precious grandson was still alive, he was already satisfied. Outside the hall, Emo Tiangong had no choice but to prepare to admit defeat and return the ancestral dragon's skin to the old man. That old farmer-like old man smiled until his old face was like a blooming chrysanthemum, making Emo Tiangong gnash his teeth. It was also at this time. Su Fang, who was in the time and space abode, suddenly released his power. An aura of nothingness spread between heaven and earth. The surrounding Great Vicissitudes formation also found it difficult to block this aura. From the depths of the firmament, the sound of thunder faintly came. A terrifying heavenly Tao aura descended on the peak of Kuan-Su Divine Sect. Emo Tiangong was stunned and said in surprise, "This kid actually plans to transcend tribulation in the formation and ascend to the celestial god realm?" The old man snorted disdainfully. "Just the celestial god realm, what's there to make a fuss about? Blacksmith, stop dawdling and quickly bring the ancestral dragon's skin to this old man." But Emo Tiangong was in high spirits. "I understand. This kid is actually so smart, to actually think of such a way to break the formation." The old man was stunned and puzzled, then came to a realization. This kid actually plans to borrow the primal chaos divine realm to attack the formation. Bastard. This kid is really a bastard. If he really succeeds, wouldn't I lose another piece of primal chaos mother of gold? When a deity broke through a major realm, the primal chaos deity tribulation would descend. The divine tribulation of primal chaos was formed by the power of the heavenly Tao. No matter how powerful the great vicissitudes formation that Ji-ong created was, it was impossible for it to block the power of the heavenly Tao. Even if it wasn't destroyed by the divine tribulation, it would still lose more than half of its power. Emo Tiangong took back the ancestral dragon's pelt that he was about to give away and laughed. Farmer, who knows, this brat might really walk out of the array formation before the Godchild tournament. You better prepare the primal chaos golden essence and creation pill. Blacksmith Mo, don't be too happy too early. How powerful can the primal chaos divine tribulation be when a true god transforms into a heavenly god? When ordinary gods transcend the heaven god tribulation, they would be able to summon a divine tribulation with a radius of half a mile. Even if this brat is extraordinary, it would already be quite extraordinary if he could summon a divine tribulation with a radius of 1 mile. How could he destroy the array formation created by the great world's realm master? This brat does have some tricks up his sleeve, but it's just some petty tricks. The old farmer showed disdain and poured a ladle of ice water on Emo Tiangong's head. Emo Tiangong could no longer laugh. The divine tribulation of a heavenly god poured out from the sky and descended on Kuan Su's divine sect. The tribulation clouds rolled, and the area it covered was not 1 mile as the old man had guessed, but 10 miles. The smile on the old farmer's face froze in an instant. Emo Tiangong, on the other hand, laughed out loud. Chi, chi, chi. Terrifying lightning tore through the sky and descended. The powerful array formation of the palace at the peak of Kuan Su's divine sect instantly collapsed. However, the palace was turned into ashes under the terrifying power of the divine tribulation. Xian Lingzi and the others had long sensed the arrival of the god realm and left the palace in advance. The divine lightning crashed down and bombarded the great vicissitudes formation. The formation shattered layer by layer. The divine power of time released by the formation was forcibly shaken away in the end. The divine lightning's power was also weakened by more than half. When it landed on Su Fang's body, less than 1/3 of its power was left. Boom! Boom! Su Fang activated the fire cloud palm and clashed with the divine lightning, shattering the terrifying divine lightning. The power of the primal chaos divine realm was indeed terrifying. However, Su Fang's current true strength could even kill a peak 9th firmament heavenly god expert. Moreover, most of its power was weakened by the formation. Whether it was the terrifying tribulation power contained in the divine lightning or the pressure of heaven's might on the primordial spirit, it was difficult to cause too much of a threat to Su Fang. This state lasted for as long as half a year. Only then did the aura of the divine tribulation start to gradually weaken and finally disappear completely. The great vicissitudes formation that was bombarded into disorder by the divine tribulation actually did not completely collapse. It started to operate slowly again, shackling Su Fang within. However, the formation's power was less than 1/10 of before. An auspicious aura containing a trace of chaos aura descended on Su Fang's body, cleansing his body, divine apertures, and divine dwellings. A surge of promotion power swept through his entire body from inside out. The impurities in the placenta emerged from the depths of his body, emitting a foul stench. About 3 months later, everything calmed down. Following the calming of the promotion power and the disappearance of the auspicious light, Su Fang felt that the entire world had changed greatly in an instant. His perception of the world instantly became incomparably clear. The shackles of the world on the divine body and primordial spirit became more than 10 times weaker. A feeling of merging with heaven and earth arose spontaneously. This was the difference between the heavenly God realm and the true God realm. The true God realm mainly merged the physical body with the natural aura of heaven and earth to condense divine vitality. However, the heavenly God realm started to cultivate the laws of the great Tao and control the power of heaven and earth. When Su Fang was in the true God realm, although he could control the power of heaven and earth with the help of divine abilities, divine weapons, as well as his own Chaos God Lattice and Primordial Spirit, unleashing powerful divine abilities, his strength reaching an astonishing height that could kill heavenly gods. However, how could there be such a wonderful feeling as he could control nature as he wanted after advancing to the heavenly God realm? He sensed his body again. His divine dwellings became deeper and more vast. The star vortex in the center of the divine dwellings also became one size larger. The speed of its rotation was even more astonishing. Its ability to devour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and convert it into divine vitality had increased by at least 5 times. His divine apertures became more solid. His yang spirit was peeling off layer by layer, then transforming and fusing together again. An even stronger and more solid yang spirit was condensing again. Whether it was his divine dwellings, divine body, or yang spirit, there was a heavenly scar everywhere. It seemed to have decreased, but in reality, it had become more stable. The heavenly Tao aura contained in it had become more profound. First heavenly God realm. Right now, I'm facing an expert of Ling Xiangmei's level. Although I'm still a little powerless, I can still kill any deity within the heavenly deity realm. Even if they have powerful divine abilities and divine artifacts, or even ordinary elders who have surpassed the heavenly deity realm. If I use the illusory fire cloud together with the prehistoric inflammation, it is not impossible to defeat a powerful elder like Ling Xiangmei. Su Fang's eyes flickered with a hale and hearty light, revealing a strong sense of confidence. This confidence came from his great strength, and at the same time, from his hard work. He had overcome all the difficulties and obstacles to finally reach his goal, and that kind of confidence in himself. His perfect vision swept across the broken formation. After advancing to the heavenly God realm, the power of the arrow of time has naturally increased by several times. It won't be long before I can completely break the formation and walk out of here. Su Fang then swallowed pills, preparing to stabilize his cultivation as soon as possible, and then break the formation in one fell swoop. Who would have thought that this breakthrough to the heavenly God realm would actually use up all the mid-grade divine essence pills, leaving behind some low-grade divine essence pills, and not many spiritual items left. If I use the heaven and earth spiritual chi to recover, it will take a lot of time, and I will definitely not be able to make it in time for the Kimiko Hoshino contest. What should I do? Su Fang was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, Mo Tiangong's primordial spirit voice transmitted over. Kid, I will lend you a hand, and this supreme peak grade pill is for you. I won't give you the pill, but if you can't walk out before the Divine Sun contest, you will have to give me 10,000 supreme peak grade pills. Immediately after, a Xian Guang enveloped a pill, passing through the formation. The great vicissitudes formation created by Ji Ong was incomparably powerful. Even the ethereal primordial spirit couldn't pass through the formation, but Mo Tiangong was able to send the pills in. It was clear how extraordinary his strength was. Mo Tiangong? When did he come to the Kuan Su divine sect? Su Fang was very surprised, but he did not think too much about it, and hurriedly entered the time cave. If he really could not walk out before the Divine Sun contest, Mo Tiangong would have to give him 10,000 supreme peak grade pills. Even if he was killed, he would not be able to take out so many pills. This Mo Tiangong is really ungrateful. I have enlightened him before, but he doesn't know how to repay me, and even threaten me. Su Fang was very dissatisfied with Mo Tiangong. How could he know that 2 peerless giants had placed a heavy bet on him? If he lost, not only would Mo Tiangong have to give away the treasures in his hands, but he would also have to refine 10 fortune divine artifacts. Those were creation divine artifacts that they were talking about. Even though they were created by artificers and were not born from nature, the value of 10 creation divine artifacts was so high that even if the entire star region where the star billow divine realm was located was sold, it would not be worth that much. Mo Tiangong was like a red-eyed gambler at this moment. How could he still remember the kindness of enlightening him? With Su Fang's current cultivation, it was difficult for him to swallow the supreme peak grade pills. He separated about 1/10 of the pills from them, and then merged them with spiritual water, turning them into spiritual liquid. After turning them into the yellow spring blood sea, a dozen drops of spiritual liquid fell into the blood water. How terrifying was the medicinal power of a supreme peak grade pill! Just a dozen drops of spiritual liquid were enough to replenish Su Fang's almost depleted energy after his breakthrough at a crazy speed. However, Su Fang's divine body and divine dwelling were 10 times more vast than ordinary gods, so it was naturally more difficult for him to recover. Even with the supreme peak grade pills and the devouring power of the yellow spring blood sea, he could not stabilize his state in a short time. Outside the formation, time passed day by day. Even if Su Fang appeared now, it would be impossible for him to break the formation in the remaining time. The old farmer was very pleased, and he laughed loudly at Mo Tiangong. "Blacksmith Mo, hurry up and give it to me." Who knew that at this moment? Chapter 1924. At the last moment, Su Fang used the sky-breaking rainbow shuttle to tyrannically charge out of the restraints of the Great Vicissitudes formation. Jiang personally created the formation. Although it was incomparably powerful, forcefully charging out of the formation would cause one to be eroded by the power of time. However, at this time, more than half of the formation had been destroyed by the divine tribulation. The distance was so short, and the sky-breaking rainbow shuttle's power was astonishing. Although Su Fang charged out of the formation, he still successfully charged out. The golden rainbow soared into the sky and suddenly stopped 3,000 feet in the air. Su Fang's figure appeared. "I finally charged out of this damn time formation." Su Fang's eyes were filled with lingering fear. At the same time, he was also incomparably excited. This time, being trapped in the formation, he didn't know how many years had passed in the outside world. However, his gains were also very shocking. From the 8th firmament of true God to the heavenly God realm in one go, and even grasped a powerful great Tao of time ability, the Arrow of Time. His gains could not be said to be small. Feng Hua, Xianlingzi, the 3 divine kings, and the others flew over. Each and every one of them had looks of disbelief and wild joy. At the peak of Kuan Su Divine Sect's giant mountain, the 2 peerless giants were first surprised, but soon after, their expressions were completely different. Mo Tiangong was naturally wild with joy. He didn't need to hand over the ancestral dragon's hide that he obtained. There were also 100 creation saint pills and a piece of primal chaos gold. These were all rare treasures in the myriad world. How could he not be wild with joy? Lucky star. This Mo Fenghua first helped me break through the shackles of cultivation. This time, he helped me win 3 treasures. He's simply my lucky star. Mo Tiangong laughed heartily. He was very happy in his heart. The farmer-like old man was naturally furious and heartbroken. He wished he could grab Su Fang and choke him to death. "Farmer, you can't be planning to vent your anger on a junior after losing the treasure, right?" Mo Tiangong mocked. "Humph, how could this old man be so petty?" the old man said resentfully. Then, his eyes flashed with a bright light. Blacksmith Mo, the divine tool that kid used just now seemed to be. Mo Tiangong's eyes suddenly became sharp, and he snorted inexplicably, "Old thing, don't tell me you're coveting the treasure of a heavenly god junior? If that's the case, I might fall out with you." Mo Tiangong, what kind of person do you think I, Xing Wuji, am? Why would I plunder the fortune of a junior? The old man laughed in embarrassment. Suddenly both of their divine lights changed slightly at the same time. Mo Tiangong laughed and said, "The Ji people are really arrogant to the point of lawlessness." The old man named Limitless Life chuckled. This Ji people's junior created such a formation and caused this old man to lose so miserably. I have nowhere to vent my anger, but he delivered himself to my doorstep. Whoosh! High up in the sky, a huge flying sword that was 1,000 feet long tore through the air. A sharp and domineering aura formed an enormous pressure that enveloped the entire Kuan Su divine sect. Jiang, the expert of the Ji people, Jiang, had once again arrived at the Kuan Su divine sect. Ji Xingyue stood behind Jiang, with an arrogant and domineering aura. As it turned out, Jiang's purpose in coming to the Star Billow Divine Realm was to deal with Su Fang's matter, and that was to recruit geniuses and seedlings for the Ji people during the Kamiko Hoshino tournament. Therefore, after Jiang sealed Su Fang with a formation, he left the Star Billow Divine Realm. Jiang naturally knew about Fan Su's suicide. He thought that the three divine kings had asked the big shots behind them to pressure the higher-ups of the Sanskrit and save Su Fang's life. Although Jiang was surprised, he did not take it to heart. The three divine kings were master artificers, and their strength and connections were extraordinary. However, the Ji people were not afraid of them. When Su Fang rushed out of the Great Vicissitudes formation, Jiang, who was far away in the Star Billow Divine Realm, immediately sensed it. Shocked, he immediately activated his divine artifact and rushed over. Mo Fenghua, I really didn't expect you to walk out of the Great Vicissitudes formation that I personally created in less than 100,000 years. Heavenly God Realm. Jiang's expression changed instantly when he sensed Su Fang's aura. 80,000 years had passed in the outside world, but the flow of time inside the Great Vicissitudes formation was 1,000 times different from the outside world. In other words, only 80 years had passed in the formation. Jiang naturally did not know that Su Fang had a time cave. In such a short time, Su Fang had actually broken through from the 8th Heavenly God Realm to the 1st Heavenly God Realm. Such a speed of improvement was rare even among the Ji people, let alone the Star Billow Divine Realm. How could Jiang not feel extremely shocked? Moreover, Su Fang even broke through the Great Vicissitudes formation that he personally created. This child is heaven-defying. Since I can't subdue him, then I definitely can't let him live. Su Fang's astonishing speed of improvement made Jiang faintly feel threatened. Cold killing intent seeped out of his eyes. Just as he was about to attack, Ji Xingyue suddenly said, "Prehistoric inflammation is mine." Small matter. Jiang nodded. In the next moment, Jiang formed a seal. The power of time suddenly descended and enveloped Su Fang. "Jiang, you dare!" Xian Lingzi was shocked and furious. He charged at Jiang without regard for his own safety. The three divine kings were just about to activate their divine abilities when they suddenly stopped. Then, they revealed looks of surprise and joy. It turned out that Mo Tiangong secretly transmitted a message to him, telling him not to attack. With a peerless expert like Mo Tiangong here, even if Jiang had the strength of a great realm's realm lord, how big of a wave could he create? What right do you have to bare your fangs and brandish your claws in front of me? Die. Cold killing intent flashed in Jiang's eyes. He rolled up his sleeves, and a mysterious and powerful aura of the Great Path swept out. Xian Lingzi was only 100 feet away from Jiang. However, this mere distance had now become endless. Xian Lingzi felt time fly by. No matter how he used his movement technique, he was still 100 feet away from Jiang. At the same time, there was a power of time that caused Xian Lingzi's lifespan to decrease rapidly. In a short span of 2 or 3 breaths, Xian Lingzi's head turned snow-white. His skin became like tree bark. A thick aura of death spread from his body. He was about to reach the end of his life. The same thing happened to Su Fang. The terrifying power of time caused him to rapidly turn from a 17-year-old to a 20-year-old youth, then middle-aged and then old. The great path of time's divine ability was actually so terrifying. Jiang. Su Fang's eyes burned with hatred and anger. Prehistoric inflammation also merged with his physical body to wear down the terrifying power of time. However, facing a terrifying existence of a great realm lord, he was completely powerless. The difference between the two was too great. Jiang looked at Su Fang, his eyes filled with coldness. Ji Xingye reminded, "Father, prehistoric inflammation." Jiang smiled and said, "Don't worry. Prehistoric inflammation is a treasure of heaven and earth. Life is almost eternal. Even if Mo Fenghua, this ant, turns into ashes, prehistoric inflammation will not be destroyed by Father's power of time." Suddenly, a mysterious aura swept past like a breeze. It circled around Su Fang and Xianlingzi, and then suddenly burrowed into their bodies. This aura was very ethereal and ethereal. It contained a supreme great path of law. Only Su Fang and Xianlingzi could sense it. Jiang did not sense it at all. When the aura entered their bodies, it immediately turned into a majestic and mysterious life aura, crazily roaring inside their bodies. Then this life aura quickly merged with the two's divine bodies. Like a withered seedling suddenly receiving rain, the two's divine bodies immediately glowed with astonishing life power. Ji Eng's power of time, the life that he had lost, under this mysterious life aura, immediately disappeared. The withered blood energy, the life that had been worn down by time, recovered to their peak state at an unimaginable speed. Not only that, Xianlingzi and Su Fang's life power was rising at an astonishing speed. The two gained great benefits in just a few breaths. It was comparable to cultivating in seclusion for millions of years. Xianlingzi's benefits were especially obvious. His snow-white hair quickly turned grayish-white, and then it became glossy black. On his face, the death spots that would only appear on a person who was about to die quickly disappeared. His bark-like skin quickly became smooth and elastic. Not only his appearance, but his aura also instantly became like a middle-aged man in his 30s. However, not only did his cultivation not decline, but it also improved, reaching the peak that could break through at any time. Such a scene could be called defying nature and changing fate. Xianlingzi, who had already fallen into despair, was dumbfounded. In the distance, the three divine kings and the others were also dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1925. While Su Fang was communicating with Luo, a huge commotion suddenly came from his body. He quickly peeled off a yang spirit to check the yin-yang Dao wheel. The 58th meridian that was being attacked was mostly burning with shocking yang qi flames. After fusing with a large amount of prehistoric spirit flames and the flame essence of prehistoric inflammation, this yang meridian had accumulated enough yang qi long ago. The only thing it lacked was an opportunity to be born. Unexpectedly, after absorbing a portion of the mysterious aura, the 58th yang meridian that had been dormant for a long time was actually on the verge of being born. Su Fang was surprised and happy. However, this was clearly not the time for the birth of a yang meridian. He quickly sealed the yang qi. It would not be too late to attack this yang meridian after dealing with this crisis. Xianlingzi and Su Fang's shocking changes shocked everyone. Jiang was also quite shocked. However, in the next moment, he let out a furious roar and pounced towards Su Fang. Whoosh! From the void, another ethereal breeze blew over. However, this time, it was not aimed at Su Fang and Xianlingzi. Instead, it was aimed at Jiang Poof. The mysterious aura enveloped Jiang and quickly seeped into his body. Jiang was shocked to find that his cultivation was immediately suppressed from the realm lord of a great realm to the first heaven of a celestial god. Which senior is joking with me? Senior, please give face to the Ji people and be merciful. Jiang was not a fool. He immediately understood that there was a peerless expert secretly making a move. To be able to use such a shocking ability, it was definitely a famous peerless figure in the myriad realms. It was definitely not someone he could fight against. In his shock, Jiang immediately brought up the Ji people. In the myriad realms, the name of the Ji people was still very useful. Even those domain lord experts had to give some face to the Ji people. So what if you're the Ji people? What this old man can't stand the most is people like you who bully the weak and bully the weak. If you have the ability, why don't you suppress your cultivation and fight with that kid? Xing Wuji's voice was filled with disdain. Then, he sent a voice transmission to Su Fang. Boy, I'll give you a chance. Kill this bastard for me. This peerless expert seems to hold a grudge against Jiang. Su Fang was shocked and stunned. How could he have known that Xing Wuji had a strange temperament? This time, he had made a bet with Mo Tiangong and lost a treasure. In front of Mo Tiangong, he was filled with anger and could not vent it on Su Fang. Therefore, Jiang had unfortunately become the target of his anger. Jiang! Su Fang's eyes flashed with fierce killing intent. With his current strength, he was unable to fight against a great world's sector lord. At this time, Jiang's cultivation was suppressed to the same level. What did Su Fang have to fear? Bastard, you caught me off guard and gained the upper hand in our previous confrontation. This time, watch how I suppress you. Ji Xingyue's hands parted and a full moon quickly formed. The strange power of lunar eclipse enveloped Su Fang. You father and son treated me like an ant. You killed me as you wished and shackled me as you wished. Now I'll make you pay back tenfold. Boom. The unique flame aura of prehistoric inflammation exploded from Su Fang's body. The strange power that enveloped him instantly disappeared. Su Fang activated the winged divine artifact and turned into a ray of light. With a whoosh, he instantly closed in on Ji Xingyue and punched out with the power of his divine body. A peak middle-grade divine artifact was activated to the extreme by Su Fang. His speed was so fast that Ji Xingyue could not even react. Just as a look of fear appeared on his face, Su Fang's devastating punch landed on his face. Crack, crack, crack. Ji Xingyue's chest exploded with blood and flesh. His bones shattered and his internal organs were shattered by this punch. His divine body almost collapsed. Without circulating his divine essence or using any ability, Su Fang's punch heavily injured Ji Xingyue and almost killed him. Little bastard, you dare! Jiang gritted his teeth and activated the Great Tao of Time ability. A burst of time power swept towards Su Fang like a wave. His cultivation was suppressed to the height of a first firmament celestial god. Although Jiang could still release the powerful Great Tao of Time ability, its power was not even 1% of his peak state. Su Fang sneered disdainfully. The Great Tao of Time turned into an arrow of time formed by black and white energies. It had the shocking momentum of exploding time and space and forcibly tore a crack in Jiang's ability. Bastard, you actually mastered the Great Tao of Time ability? How is this possible? Jiang was shocked and looked at Su Fang in disbelief. Su Fang took advantage of the situation and charged out, activating the silver Krite sword. In a flash, the dazzling silver Xian Guang pierced a transparent hole in Jiang's chest. Little bastard, you actually dare to injure me? Jiang was worthy of being a powerhouse equivalent to a great world's realm lord. His divine body was incomparably powerful. To a celestial god realm cultivator, it was practically a fatal injury. Only to see blood roil on his wound and the injury immediately healed. However, being injured by a celestial god realm made Jiang shocked and furious. So what if I injured you? Su Fang smiled coldly. He took a step out and activated Heaven's Sealing Frost. A terrifying aura that could freeze and crush everything erupted, shackling Jiang. Heaven's Sealing Frost was a supreme grade divine artifact. At this time, it was fused further by Su Fang and could already activate about 50% of its power. If his cultivation was not suppressed, Jiang would not care about the power of a supreme-grade divine artifact at all. However, he was only in the celestial god realm now. Although he wanted to, he was powerless. His divine body was shaken and his movements became difficult. Qi. Another burst of sword qi erupted from the silver kite sword, coiling around Jiang's right arm and cutting it off. Su Fang grabbed the air and grabbed the right arm. He directly kept it in his inner world and sealed it. The divine body of a powerhouse at the same level as a great world's realm lord contained a majestic life force. It was the supreme material for Su Fang to recover his life force and for Qin Yu, undead lord, and the others to cultivate. Mo Fenghua. As expected of a powerhouse, blood roiled and quickly condensed. After squirming for a while, a brand new right arm grew out. Qi. The silver kite sword exploded again. The silver light cut off the newly grown right arm. Su Fang happily kept it again. Mo Fenghua, I will kill you. Jiang was almost mad with anger. How noble and powerful were the powerhouses of the Ji people. At this time, his divine body was being cut up by a first heaven celestial god. How could he not be angry? Isn't your divine body very strong? Why don't you continue growing? Seeing that Jiang's right arm was still not growing, Su Fang couldn't help but urge him. A stream of blood spurted out from Jiang's mouth. This time, it wasn't because he was injured. It was because he was angry. It's not bad to have this blood qi. Su Fang immediately released the fire lizard. It opened its mouth and sucked in the blood qi in the air. The fire lizard that he tamed in the Sui Yu cave had swallowed a lot of primitive spiritual flames. It had already reached the peak of the heavenly god realm. Now that it had swallowed Jiang's blood qi, although it was only a small amount, it caused the fire lizard to undergo a shocking transformation. A wave of demonic qi surged out from its body and turned into demonic flames. It was about to break through. Find a place to break through. Don't worry about anything else. Su Fang wasn't surprised. He ordered the fire lizard to find a place to break through at Kuan Su's divine sect. A dignified expert of the Ji people actually had his blood qi devoured by a big goblin right in front of him. The big goblin then used his blood qi to break through. Jiang was so angry that his vision darkened and he almost fainted. Su Fang activated the flying divine artifact behind him again. His figure flashed and he appeared in front of Jiang Dai. Jiang opened his mouth and spat out a flying sword. Who knew that before the flying sword could unleash its power, Su Fang's eyes suddenly burst out with a mysterious purple xian guang. A wave of terrifying divine aura that came from controlling a magic treasure burst out. The flying sword hadn't transformed back into its original sword form. It let out a trembling hum from Jiang's mouth. It was actually somewhat out of control. The one who should die is you. Su Fang roared. Prehistoric inflammation fused with his divine body. A terrifying divine aura of flames burst out like a flash flood. Even though Jiang's divine body was incomparably strong, it was still burned by the divine aura of prehistoric inflammation until it emitted a burnt smell. Prehistoric inflammation was a domineering divine aura that could turn everything in the world into flames. It made an expert like Jiang feel as if his flesh, life force, divine essence, and even primordial spirit were about to combust. Qi. Su Fang activated the silver kite sword again and slashed at Jiang's left arm. As a result, Su Fang obtained another arm of a great realm lord expert. After being severely injured in such a humiliating manner, Jiang was like an injured ancient ferocious beast. However, his cultivation was suppressed. At most, he was a ferocious beast that had lost its claws and teeth. Seeing that Jiang still hadn't activated his blood qi to reform his arms, Su Fang's gaze swept across Jiang's legs. It wasn't that Su Fang didn't want to kill Jiang. However, He also knew that if he really killed Jiang, the Ji people would definitely seek revenge at all costs. At that time, it would be hard to say if Mo Tiangong and that expert would still help him. The power of an outsider could be borrowed once. One couldn't rely on others every time. One's own strength was the most important. However, Su Fang didn't plan to let Jiang have an easy time. If he missed this opportunity, it would be very difficult for him to even touch a strand of Jiang's hair. Sensing the greed and coldness in Su Fang's eyes, Jiang was finally afraid. If Su Fang really cut off his arms and legs, even if he could keep his life, he wouldn't be able to see anyone in the future. Kid, enough is enough. Xing Wuji and Mo Tiangong's figures appeared from the void. Greetings, martial ancestor. The three divine kings hurriedly knelt down towards Mo Tiangong. Xian Lingzi and the others were also shocked. They knelt down towards Mo Tiangong and Xing Wuji. You suppressed the same cultivation, yet you ended up in such a miserable state. Other than using the Ji people's tiger skin to bully the younger generation, what else can you do? The Ji people are also declining. Scram, leave the star below God realm. Xing Wuji waved at Jiang. Chapter 1926. Su Fang's cold gaze swept across Jiang's arms. Congratulations, Lord Jiang. You've grown 2 new arms. Jiang's divine light changed slightly. Aside from resentment, there was also a trace of lingering fear in his eyes. For an expert like Jiang, the damage to his divine body was merely a loss of blood and qi. However, an ant-like existence had cut off a part of his god body like cutting a leek. No matter what, Jiang didn't want to experience this kind of pain and humiliation again. Xing Wuji shouted coldly, Junior of the Ji people, there's no need to say those meaningless words. I've already set my eyes on this kid. He will be listed on the Primordial Chaos Golden List. So, you can't touch him, not even the Ji people. If he loses even a strand of hair, the Ji people will have to bear the consequences. If you don't believe me, you can go back and ask your patriarch. As he spoke, Xing Wuji waved his long sleeve and sent Jiang flying more than 10 miles away. Primordial Chaos Golden List? What's that? Jiang realized that his cultivation had been restored. He could not help but feel shocked. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, I will report today's matter to the patriarch. Goodbye. This time, Jiang came aggressively. He thought that he could crush Su Fang like an ant. He did not expect to kick an iron plate. Not only did he hurt his bones, but he also lost his face. However, he could not take revenge. One could imagine the anger in Jiang's heart. Although he was unwilling, he had to swallow his anger. Suppressing his anger, he took Ji Xingyue and flew away on his sword. One day I, Su Fang, will kill the Ji people. I will kill Jiang for Mo Fenghua's parents, for my master, and for myself. I will even exterminate the Ji people. The grudge with the Ji people had just begun. Su Fang was filled with killing intent toward Jiang and the entire Ji people. It was 10 times more intense than the Sanskrit. Mo Tiangong released a divine aura that covered the space around the 3 of them. Brat, this old man will give you a piece of advice. Infinite Life glanced at Su Fang and saw through Su Fang's thoughts. Su Fang was shocked. He cupped his fists and said, Please enlighten me, senior. Although you have some talent, have all kinds of powerful means, and have good luck, compared to the Ji people, you are not even an ant. How dare this Ji people treat you like this? But in front of this old man, you're as obedient as a cat or dog. It's nothing more than strength. If I were you, I would try my best to bear with it on the surface and avoid the brunt of it. When the opportunity arises, I would ruthlessly tear off a piece of flesh from the Ji people in the dark. If there comes a day when we have absolute power, we will wipe out the Ji people from top to bottom. Xing Wuji no longer looked like an old farmer. Instead, he looked like a supreme overlord. His face was domineering, vicious, and somewhat shameless. Thank you, senior, for your advice. This junior understands. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed. Then, Su Fang asked, Senior, what is the Hunyuan Golden List? You don't need to know about this, and you can't reveal it to anyone. Also, the Golden Rainbow Monarch's token on you, even this old man is tempted. Before you have enough power, it's best not to take it out in front of others. Infinite Life waved his hand at Su Fang. Even such a supreme expert values the heaven-breaking rainbow shuttle so much? Su Fang's heart trembled. He just realized that the heaven-breaking rainbow shuttle was more important than he thought. Infinite Life looked at Mo Tiangong. Blacksmith Mo, this kid has helped you a little. This time, he helped you win so many treasures from this old man. Why don't you hurry up and give him some blood? Mo Tiangong smiled bitterly and said to Su Fang, if you are willing, this seat is willing to accept you as a disciple. Not only will you not have to worry about the G people and the Sanskrit, you will also be able to enjoy all kinds of cultivation resources that even the divine race's geniuses can't enjoy. Sooner or later, you will become a supreme expert. Su Fang was stunned. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Senior, for your kindness. This junior is used to being free and undisciplined. I can only accept the matter of taking you as my master. Infinite Life sneered. Blacksmith Mo, this kid has helped you a little. He's like your teacher. You actually want to take him as your disciple. You're too shameless. Mo Tiangong's elegant face flushed red. Limitless Life continued. Besides, which peerless expert didn't walk a path full of thorns? If you let him become your disciple and raise him like a pig or a sheep, no matter how fat he is, he won't be able to become a tiger or a wolf. It'll just be a waste of his talent. Although Infinite Life's words were crude, they were quite reasonable. Mo Tiangong completely dismissed the idea of taking him as a disciple. After thinking about it, Mo Tiangong took out 10 pills. This is the Saint of Fortune pill. It's a supreme spiritual medicine of the King of Transcendence grade. It's greatly beneficial to the cultivation of a great world's realm lord. You've taken some when you were breaking through to the heavenly god realm. You should know the miraculous effects of this pill. Right now, you can only swallow a small amount each time. It's useless to give you more. I'll give you 10 as a reward for enlightening me last time. Saint of Fortune pill? Su Fang took the pills with both hands. He was very happy. Whether it was a divine weapon or a pill, as long as it had the word fortune, it was a supreme treasure. How could Su Fang not be excited? Infinite Life was extremely depressed when he saw his treasure being given away by Mo Tiangong. He said sarcastically, and that ancestral dragon's hide and primal chaos gold. Why don't you take them out? Mo Tiangong was forced into a corner. He said, fine. Thirdly, I've refined a natal divine weapon for you. I'll refine it again for you and mix in some primal chaos gold. As for the ancestral dragon's hide, I'll have to use my brain to see if I can use the scraps to refine a divine weapon for you. Su Fang didn't know about the bet between these two supreme experts. He was shocked and overjoyed. Unexpectedly, Mo Tiangong changed the topic. However, I have a condition. You have to enter the top 100 in the Kimiko Hoshino contest. Only then can you get the treasure I refine. Infinite Life also spoke up, little brat, this old man and blacksmith Mo only helped you because of your talent. However, we can only protect you for a while. We can't guarantee that you will become a powerful expert. If you can't even get a little Kimiko Hoshino, then you are worthless. I'll erase you from the Primal Chaos Gold list and leave you to fend for yourself. You have talent and ambition. Your methods and scheming are far better than your peers. However, you lack a strong background that can help you rise. The God's Child contest gives all geniuses of humble origins a chance. As long as you show enough talent, you will get the fortune that will lead you to the top of the universe. Now, the chance to change your fate is right in front of you. You have to grasp it yourself. Farmer, let's go. Mo Tiangong and infinite life escaped into the void and disappeared without a trace. The divine aura that shrouded the space also disappeared without a trace. The God's Child contest isn't as simple as I thought. It's most likely as Luo guessed. What is the primal chaos gold list? Even the patriarch of Sanskrit was scared of it. Su Fang secretly guessed in his heart as he flew toward the three divine kings, Xianlingzi, and the others. The three divine kings were indeed master refiners. They had already upgraded the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, the Xianming Thunder Archive, and the Underworld Samsara Sword to divine artifacts. Moreover, they were all middle-grade divine artifacts. With the three divine kings' current level of refinement, they could refine top-grade divine artifacts. However, these three artifacts were only doctrine artifacts after all. Their foundations were too low. If they were upgraded too quickly, the artifact spirits wouldn't be able to withstand it and would directly collapse under the divine power of the divine artifacts formations. Not to mention helping Su Fang better control the divine artifacts and explode with greater power. The three divine kings also refined a natal divine artifact for Su Fang. It was a treasured cauldron that could be used to refine artifacts. It could also release the divine power of earth and fire. It was just right for Su Fang to cultivate the way of earth and prehistoric inflammation. Su Fang hadn't seen what the natal divine artifact looked like before it was taken away by Mo Tiangong before he left. He didn't know when he would be able to see what the natal divine artifact looked like. He also didn't know what kind of power it would have after being refined by Mo Tiangong. Thank you, three great masters. Su Fang was naturally overjoyed that all three artifacts had been upgraded to divine artifact. Especially the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, this natal magic artifact, which had accompanied him since he was in the small world until now. He had a very deep relationship with it. Now that it had also been upgraded, he naturally felt happy from the bottom of his heart. It was as if his cultivation had been upgraded. Xianlingzi didn't know that the three divine kings had upgraded the quality of Su Fang's three artifacts, so he didn't have any suspicions. Mo, fellow Taoist, why are you being so polite with me? The three divine kings almost called Su Fang Senior. Fortunately, they changed their words in time. However, their attitude towards Su Fang was incomparably respectful, which shocked Xianlingzi and the others. Su Fang was about to answer when his divine light suddenly changed slightly. He cupped his fists towards the three great masters and then flew down towards Kuan Su's divine sect. As soon as he landed on the ground, Su Fang immediately unsealed his Yang Meridian. Then, he activated the 9 Yang 9 transformations to attack the 58th Yang Meridian. Again and again, not only the Yang Qi in the Yang Meridian, but the power of the Yin-Yang world and divine essence also poured into this meridian. Qi. This meridian shook violently, and a pure Yang divine light suddenly exploded. The meridian instantly turned into a jade-like substance. The 58th Yang meridian was finally born. It's really not easy. After the 6th transformation, every birth of a Yang meridian is so difficult. Su Fang wiped the sweat from his forehead. At this time, the newly born Yang meridian also moved and connected with the 57th Yang meridian, becoming a part of the outer layer of the Yin-Yang Dao wheel. An extra Yang meridian meant that the Yang Qi in the body increased. At the same time, Su Fang's cultivation speed also increased. The Yin-Yang Dao wheel was the universe of Su Fang's inner world. Another Yang meridian was born, which also meant that Su Fang's world had become even more vast, and the world's growth had taken another step forward. There were less than 10 years left before the Kamiko Hoshino tournament began. Chapter 1927. This was the first time Su Fang had walked out of a small realm and entered a large realm. He couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After walking out of the Stargate, Su Fang quickly shook off the discomfort caused by the teleportation between two realms. The Star Below God realm. The star billow god realm that appeared in front of Su Fong shocked him beyond words. In the boundless galaxy, pieces of matter and stars floated in it, moving according to an incomparably strange orbit. It was like a boundless ocean that rose and fell, giving Su Fong a strong visual impact. This was only the tip of the iceberg that Su Fong could see with his great perfection power. In fact, it wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. If the star billow god realm was displayed in front of his eyes, how spectacular and shocking would it be? Su Fong activated his purple energy spirit and his eyes turned purple. The star billow god realm he saw instantly changed. As these stars and matter revolved, they formed an extremely terrifying movement of the heavenly law. It made Su Fong tremble, his heart filled with shock and awe. A feeling of being as small as an ant spontaneously rose in his heart. Is this a large realm? Su Fong was so shocked that he asked Luo, who was in the depths of his time and space cave. Yes, this is a large realm of the god realms. Furthermore, the star billow god realm is a very ordinary large realm. Luo's voice rang out. Luo's next words shocked Su Fong even more. Whether it is a large realm or a small realm, they were all created by the peerless experts of all the realms in the universe. After countless years of evolution, they finally became what they are today. Some god realms, after the experts died, their divine bodies collapsed, and the worlds formed by their divine palaces scattered into the primal chaos to form giant material god realms. The divine palaces of gods can finally cultivate into a god realm for them to live and cultivate in. What kind of amazing strength does this require? Su Fong was shocked again. Yes, just like the world in your body, the divine palaces of the peerless experts of all the realms in the universe become a god realm when they cultivate to a certain level. Such a deity was at least an area lord. There are even some domain lords who use their supreme divine abilities to create pieces of matter and world. They sell them to the gods and profit from them. However, the world within your body is different from the divine dwellings of other gods. The world within your body is a universe of its own, and it encompasses everything in the world and forms its own heavenly Tao. Only those peerless overlords and supreme existences in the myriad of worlds are able to possess such a minor world within their bodies. It's impossible for ordinary region lords to cultivate a minor world within their bodies. The world of deities, on the other hand, is formed by the cultivation of one or several types of energy and laws. They have to rely on the universe to exist. Now you should understand how powerful your 9 suns 9 transformations is. When the world in your body grows to a sufficient height, the star billow god realm that you see before you will be nothing more than a speck of dust in the vast expanse of heaven. He ended the conversation with Luo. Su Fong's heart was filled with shock as he stepped onto the flying treasure ship of the 3 divine kings and flew towards the depths of the star billow god realm in the desolate void. Su Fong used this opportunity to enter the time and space cave to digest the great harvest from before. He wanted to stabilize his normal state as a first heavenly god and increase his strength before the godchild tournament. This time, he was trapped in the great vicissitudes formation by Jiang and wasted more than 80,000 years of time. This made Su Fong's heart ache. How long did it take for him to step on the path of cultivation and ascend to the myriad of worlds? This time, he had wasted 80,000 years of time in vain. How could he not feel heartache? How could he not gnash his teeth in hatred towards Jiang? Fortunately, the harvest this time was also incomparably shocking. It more or less made Su Fong feel a little better. Su Fong sank into the time and space cave. After forming a seal, his physical body collapsed layer by layer, finally turning into a 500-meter-wide pool of blood. As it roared, a divine power of reincarnation and devouring exploded. Su Fong's divine body had absorbed some of the mysterious aura of the great path of life from endless life, causing his perfect physical body to undergo a shocking transformation. His various true bodies, especially the yellow spring true body, the black lotus true body, and the dragon subduing true body, had undergone the greatest transformation. Now that he had turned into a pool of blood, it already had the aura of a boiling sea of blood. Its area had also expanded to 500 meters. Its power was more than 10 times stronger than when it was in the true God realm. The transformation of the yellow spring blood sea naturally caused its devouring ability to become incomparably shocking. In the yellow spring blood sea state, Su Fang madly devoured pills. They were not ordinary pills, but creation saint pills. Su Fang did not dare to devour too much this time. Instead, he peeled off some of the medicinal foam and diluted it with spiritual water before slowly devouring it. Otherwise, the medicinal power would directly cause his divine body and divine palace to collapse. The medicinal power of the creation saint pill is too vast. For me, the quality of the pill is still too high. I have to find a way to refine the pill and refine the yin-yang immortal sky pill that can be used in the myriad worlds. As the medicinal power was gradually absorbed by the yellow spring blood sea, Su Fang's cultivation increased at an astonishing speed. The world tree was also growing at a speed 10 times faster than before. If it was an ordinary god whose divine body was not strong enough and whose cultivation realm was not high enough, it would be almost impossible to control such terrifying medicinal power. Their divine body and divine palace would directly explode. However, Su Fang was different. His divine body and realm were far beyond his current cultivation. There was no such thing as being unable to control the energy in his body because his cultivation was higher than his realm. While increasing his cultivation, Su Fang also processed Jiang's 3 arms and refined them into blood crystals to cultivate the yellow spring blood sea technique. In addition, he let Qin Yu, fire lizard, undead monarch, and other subordinates use the shocking blood energy in the blood crystals to cultivate. Jiang's cultivation was equivalent to a great realm master. The blood energy contained in his divine body was terrifying. After Su Fang and his subordinates devoured this blood energy, it was simply unimaginable what kind of transformation they would undergo. If Jiang knew that his blood energy helped Su Fang and his subordinates, he would definitely vomit blood from anger. About 3 years later, the yang spirit that Su Fang left outside the cavern of time sensed the primordial spirit transmitted by Xianlingzi. Fenghua is about to arrive at the hidden soul island where Kuan Su's divine sect resides. In the cavern of time, the blood water quickly rolled and condensed from the center into Su Fang's physical state. During the 30 years of cultivation in the cavern of time, the yellow spring blood sea was almost 10,000 feet long. This was the benefit that Jiang's blood energy brought to Su Fang. Leaving behind the blood-water doppelgangers to continue cultivating in the cavern of time, his original body flew out of the cavern of time and onto the treasure ship. Sensing Su Fang's aura, the 3 divine kings' divine light changed slightly. First Heaven's celestial god, Peak, Xianlingzi, Ling Xiangmei, and the others were all shocked. He had just advanced to the celestial god realm, and in a short 3 years, not only had he stabilized his realm, but he had also advanced to the peak of the first Heaven's celestial god realm. How could they not be shocked? Ordinary gods might not be able to do it even after 300,000 years. You little monster, how did you cultivate to improve so much? Ling Xiangmei couldn't help but ask. Senior Mo gave me a few pills and I accidentally improved. Su Fang chuckled. Xianlingzi and the others were very depressed. They had accidentally improved by a large margin. How could they, who had cultivated bitterly for at least hundreds of thousands of years, and at most tens of millions of years, only have a small improvement? At this time, a god flew over from behind on a flying sword. This god's cultivation was the same as Xianlingzi's, and he wore a divine robe with layers of starlight. He was clearly a god from the star-billow god realm. Although he wasn't a big shot, his identity was definitely not ordinary. "A lord from the star field is passing by, make way!" the god shouted at the treasure ship. The three divine kings said majestically, "Which lord from the star field is it that even this seat needs to make way for him?" "Three great masters." The god from the star below God realm hurriedly cupped his fists and apologized to the three divine kings. "It's Lord Qishao Shenjun. He came to the star below God realm to host the godchild battle." "Qishao Shenjun came personally?" The three divine kings' expression changed, and they waved at the god from the star below God realm. "Go, this seat will wait for Lord Qishao here." After that, the three divine kings explained to Su Fang. Qishao Shenjun was an expert under the master of the star field where the star below God realm was located. The more ordinary a realm master was, the more famous they were in the entire star field. Although the three divine kings were master artificers of the star below God realm, their strength and status were far inferior to Qishao Shenjun's. They had to be respectful in front of this person. The three divine kings sighed. "I didn't think that Qishao Shenjun would come personally to the star below God realm to host the godchild battle. It seems that the master of the star field places great importance on this event." Qishao Shenjun, what a powerful person! Su Fang also wanted to see what kind of person Qishao Shenjun was. The treasure ship hovered in the air and waited for about an hour. There was a carriage pulled by 18 divine dragons, which was 100 miles long. It was surrounded by 100,000 gods, and it was moving towards Zhongyu in a grand and majestic manner. The carriage stopped 5 kilometers away from the treasure ship of the three divine kings. Su Fang scanned the carriage and its surroundings with his perfect vision. He couldn't help but be shocked. The mighty divine dragon was being ordered around like a beast pulling a carriage. The weakest deities around were at the heavenly god realm, and the carriage was a king-grade divine artifact that was at the peak of supreme grade. This Qishao Shenjun was no ordinary person. His power could be said to be overwhelming. Buzz, the Tao runes of the life-shrinking technique suddenly exploded in his mind. He actually sensed an extremely familiar aura of destiny on the carriage. Su Fang couldn't be more familiar with this aura of destiny. Bai Ling. He actually sensed Bai Ling's aura on Qishao Shenjun's carriage. Sister Bai is a divine artifact left behind by the heavenly monarch of chaos in the outside world. She should be by the heavenly monarch of chaos side right now. Why is she on Qishao Shenjun's carriage? Su Fang was shocked and stunned. He immediately activated his perfect vision and the life-shrinking technique to sense Bai Ling's aura. Chapter 1928. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? After Su Fang ascended to the God realm, his biggest goal was to find Bai Ling. He didn't expect to meet her as soon as he arrived in the star below God realm. It was a pleasant surprise. He hurriedly activated his perfected ability and used the life-shrinking technique to sense Bai Ling. The three divine kings' ship was less than 5 kilometers away from Qishao Shenjun's chariot. Su Fang's life-shrinking technique easily captured Bai Ling's aura. Then, he used his perfected eye power to see her clearly. "Sister Bai, this is..." Su Fang's eyes suddenly glowed with anger. Why was this happening? On the chariot, a tall and mighty middle-aged man sat on a high platform like a giant volcano. He exuded a vast, majestic, and incomparably violent aura of fire. This person must be Qishao Shenjun. Below the platform, more than 100 beautiful women were dancing gracefully. All kinds of divine birds were flying around them to accompany them. Among these divine birds there was a white crane. It was Bai Ling's true body. She was obviously being shackled. Su Fang could clearly see the pain in Bai Ling's eyes. He could even feel her humiliation. Sister Bai is being shackled and treated like a slave for others' pleasure. Su Fang and Bai Ling had known each other for the longest time, and their relationship was also the deepest. When he saw Bai Ling's current situation, his heart burned with anger and he was about to fly out of the ship. Suddenly, a thunderous shout came. "Don't be rash. Qi Shao Shenjun is definitely not someone you can provoke right now. Figure out what's going on first, then try to save that little crane. Su Fang had no choice but to dismiss the idea. He stared at Bai Ling from afar, his heart feeling like it was being cut by a knife. He tried to send his nascent soul to Bai Ling. However, there were layers upon layers of formations and restrictions on the chariot. Not only did the chariot have powerful defensive capabilities, it also had the power to block off Yuan Shen. It was impossible to transmit Yuan Shen. At this moment, the middle-aged man on the chariot raised his head and looked at the treasure ship. In an instant, Su Fang felt as if a torrent of lava was rushing towards him, giving him a terrifying feeling that he would be burned to ashes in an instant. What a powerful Qi Shao Shenjun! Compared to Jiang, Qi Shao Shenjun was even stronger. Ordinary heavenly gods couldn't even withstand a casual glance from him. However, compared to peerless experts like Mo Tiangong and Xing Wuji, Qi Shao Shenjun was far from being on the same level. The three divine kings stepped forward and cupped their fists as they shouted, "The three divine kings of the Star Billow God realm greets Lord Qi Shao. Third, there is no need to be so courteous in front of me." The three divine kings were truly the #1 artificers of the Star Billow God realm. Even Qi Shao Shenjun was very polite to him. Qi Shao Shenjun was about to continue speaking when he saw Su Fang behind the three divine kings from the corner of his eye. He said in surprise, "Prehistoric inflammation? I once heard that prehistoric inflammation was born in a certain small realm. In the end, it was obtained by a true god. Could it be you?" Su Fang immediately felt a huge amount of pressure. He bowed and replied, "Yes, it is I. Your luck isn't bad, but it's a pity that you have prehistoric inflammation." Qi Shao Shenjun looked regretful. Then, he extended an invitation to the three divine kings. "Third, since we've met, why don't you come over? Here's my chance." Su Fang immediately transmitted his voice to the three divine kings, asking them to think of a way to save Bai Ling from Qi Shao Shenjun. Even if he had to pay a huge price, he wouldn't hesitate. The three divine kings were stunned, but they immediately agreed. They put away the treasured ship and entered Qi Shao Shenjun's carriage. The enormous and incomparably luxurious carriage started with a rumble and slowly drove past the treasured ship. Su Fang could only watch as Bai Ling brushed past him. Su Fang, Xianlingzi, and the others arrived at the Hidden Soul Island where Kuan Su's people from the God Realm live. The Hidden Soul Island was actually an island-like floating material in the periphery of the Star Billow God Realm's main realm. There were countless similar materials in the Star Billow God Realm. They were all the private territories of the gods of the Star Billow God Realm. As the Star Billow God Child battle drew closer, countless true gods flooded into the Star Billow Divine Realm. The main realm was unable to accommodate all of them, so they had to rent a place like this. The Hidden Soul Island was located at the edge of the Star Billow God Realm's main realm. It was the most desolate area. This was also something that couldn't be helped. Kuan Su's God Realm was only a small realm. Moreover, it was a small realm ranked at the bottom of the Star Billow God Realm. They could only live in a place like the Hidden Soul Island. Moreover, it was Master Kuan Su who spent a lot of money to invite the eldest disciple of the three divine kings, Master Lu, to come forward. Only then did they have such a place to stay. If they had no money or people, they could only spend their time in the void during the God-Child contest. It was similar to sleeping on the street. When Master Kuan Su saw that Su Fang actually walked out of the Great Vicissitudes formation unscathed and even advanced to the peak of the first heaven of Celestial God Realm, he was shocked and pleasantly surprised. The other people were also all shocked. When Xianlingzi secretly told Master Kuan Su about Su Fang escaping and Ji Ong suffering a loss, the latter's gaze when looking at Su Fang had some additional reverence. Then seeing Xianlingzi's age turn into a middle-aged man's appearance and obtaining such tremendous benefits, it made Master Kuan Su endlessly envious. The Star Billow contest this time only gave Kuan Su's God Realm 100 spots. Due to Su Fang being shackled in the Great Vicissitudes formation, the spot that belonged to him had long been replaced by someone else. But Su Fang did not mind. Letting the 3 divine kings come forward and ask for a participation spot was merely a matter of lifting a hand. Because he was worried about Bai Ling in his heart, Su Fangda went to understand the matters of the Kimiko Hoshino contest. Then, he brought all kinds of information collected by Kuan Su's divine sect and returned to a palace that Master Kuan Su specially arranged for him. After waiting for 3 days, the 3 divine kings came to the palace. Qi Shao is actually so greedy. It's just a crane demon, yet he actually proposed prehistoric inflammation as an exchange. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about it. The 3 divine kings were extremely angry. Qi Shao Shinjun also cultivated the great Tao of fire. Prehistoric inflammation was also of great use to an expert like him. The 3 divine kings wanted Bai Ling from him, yet he proposed such a condition. He clearly wanted to forcibly take Su Fang's prehistoric inflammation. Naturally, the 3 divine kings were unwilling to agree. However, the 3 divine kings were very clear about how Bai Ling ended up in Qi Shao Shinjun's hands. According to Qi Shao Shinjun, Bai Ling was casually bought from Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce by one of Qi Shao Shinjun's subordinate. As for how Bai Ling ended up in Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce's hands, there was no way to know. If there's no other way, it's not impossible to exchange prehistoric inflammation, Su Fang said decisively. Su Fang said decisively. Although the primordial earth flame was extremely important to him, it was insignificant compared to Bai Ling, absolutely not. The 3 divine kings hurriedly stopped him. Let us think of another way. Isn't it just a little crane demon? After staying on Hidden Soul Island for 3 months, there was still no news from the 3 divine kings. Sister Bai has already attracted Qi Shao Shinjun's attention. Qi Shao Shinjun is determined to obtain my prehistoric inflammation. The 3 divine kings won't be able to do anything. It looks like I can only rely on myself. Su Fang used a rune talisman to contact Master Lu. Accompanied by Master Lu, he left Hidden Soul Island and headed straight for the Star Billow God Realm's main realm's god capital. Master Lu was anxious to curry favor with Su Fang, so he used all of his skills to bring Su Fang around the main realm's god capital. They went all the way to the center of the god capital. Su Fang looked at the sky. It seemed to be empty, but with his perfect vision, he could see a space with an ancient aura. He could even see the mountains, forests, dojos, and mystic realms in the space. Master Lu noticed Su Fang's expression and said in surprise, "Young Master's eyesight is indeed good. You can actually see where the Star Billow God Realm's core is at a glance." Su Fang didn't take Master Lu's compliment to heart. Instead, a trace of worry appeared in his deep eyes. That was because the life-shrinking art had sensed Bai Ling's extremely weak fate aura in the depths of the hidden space. Qi Shao Shinjun was a big shot from a star region. Naturally, the Star Billow God Realm had arranged for him to live in the most central place. Moreover, he was heavily guarded. With Su Fang's current strength, it was completely impossible for him to rescue Bai Ling from his side. Forcefully rescuing Bai Ling definitely won't work. The face of the 3 divine kings won't work either. It looks like we can only use prehistoric inflammation as an exchange. Su Fang couldn't think of any good ideas. At this time, Luo spoke up. "Actually, you don't need to use prehistoric inflammation to exchange with Qi Shao Shinjun at all. Luo, what ideas do you have?" "There's only one way, and that is to display your peerless talent in the Godchild tournament. Not only do you have to fight your way into the top 100, you have to do your best to display your talent." Su Fang said in surprise, "Even if I become Kimiko Hoshino, I still won't be able to change Qi Shao Jinren's mind, right?" Kimiko Hoshino's status was extraordinary, but in the eyes of a powerhouse like Qi Shao Shinjun, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. You still underestimated this God-Child tournament, and you also underestimated yourself. The God-Child tournament is a selection of geniuses from all over the universe, and you're valued by Mo Tiangong and that peerless powerhouse, and you're listed on the Primordial Chaos Golden List. Although I don't know what exactly it is, it's obvious that your talent has attracted the attention of peerless powerhouses. As long as you display your peerless talent in the God-Child tournament, those peerless powerhouses will value you even more. At that time, what will Qishao Shenjun be worth? Luo's analysis wasn't without reason. However, when it came to Bai Ling, Su Fang didn't dare to be careless. What if Qishao Shenjun tries to harm Sister Bai? What should we do? Since that little crane is so valuable, Celestial Monarch Qishao would definitely treat her like a treasure. How could he hurt her? Moreover, the three divine kings are also quite powerful, so Qishao Shenjun wouldn't dare to forcefully seize the prehistoric inflammation. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the little crane's safety in the short term. It seems like that's the only way. Su Fang made up his mind and no longer distracted. He wholeheartedly prepared for the Kimiko Hoshino tournament. Taking out the information collected by Kuan Su's divine clan about the God-Child tournament, Su Fang's heart gradually sank to the bottom after reading it. Chapter 1929. Kuan Su's divine sect only had 100 spots, which made Su Fang mistakenly think that there wouldn't be many geniuses participating in the God-Child competition. Who knew that the number of participants would exceed Su Fang's expectations, reaching over 10 million. The main reason was that the majority of the geniuses were from the Star Billow Divine Realm. Other than that, there were also the small realms under the Star Billow Divine Realm, as well as countless family forces and other forces. Kuan Su's divine sect only got 100 spots in a gathering of 10 million people. From this, it could be seen that the overall strength of Kuan Su's divine sect, as well as their status and forces in the Star Billow Divine Realm, were not high. The large number of people might not mean anything. The strength of the geniuses participating in the God-Child competition was what worried Su Fang the most. From the information collected by the Kuan Su divine sect, it showed that the majority of the geniuses participating in the Star Billow Divine Sun competition had cultivations above the 6th firmament celestial deity realm. There were practically none below the 6th firmament. It wasn't rare to see experts surpassing the sky god realm. There were even geniuses whose strength reached the level of powerful elders like Xianlingzi. That wasn't all. For this Kimiko Hoshino competition, the forces and families behind the participating geniuses spared no expense. All kinds of powerful divine weapons, runes and other powerful methods were taken out and handed over to the participating geniuses without holding back. As such, the intensity of the God-Child competition could be imagined. In the information collected by Kuan Su's divine sect, there was the ranking of the various geniuses in the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. Ranked number 1 was a peerless genius named Bai Holan, who was specially introduced in the information. This person's cultivation had reached the level of powerful elders like Xianlingzi, and he was also the descendant of the Star Billow Divine Realm's Realm Master. He was already famous in the entire star field, and it was said that he was one of the star field's top 10 young masters. Most of the geniuses in the top 100 were from the Star Billow Divine Realm, but there were also some from other forces. Su Fang also saw some familiar names in the information. Yi Yangkong, Jing Zhuoran, Jiang Baozhen and the others were all listed, but they were ranked at the bottom. As for Kuan Su's 100 disciples, none of them was ranked in the top 10,000. A familiar name attracted Su Fang's attention. Xia Qijuan. After the prehistoric ruins experience ended, Xia Qijuan was expelled from Kuan Su's divine sect by Master Kuan Su, and his whereabouts were unknown. Who would have thought that he would be participating in the God's Sun competition as well? Who knew how he managed to get a spot to participate? Xia Qijuan's ranking was around 5,000. Such a ranking was already very shocking. Xia Qijuan, You better not meet me at the competition. Su Fang coldly smiled, not putting Xia Qijuan in his eyes. Because Su Fang's name wasn't on the list of participating disciples provided by Kuan Su's divine sect, it was natural that Su Fang's ranking couldn't be seen. However, Su Fangda speculated that if he unleashed his full strength, his ranking should be beyond the top 3,000. With his current cultivation, being able to achieve such a ranking among the 10 million geniuses could be said to be shocking. However, Su Fang's goal was to be in the top 100. Being in the top 3,000 meant nothing to him. My strength is still far from enough. If I hadn't been trapped in the great vicissitudes formation by Jiang, I could have killed my way into the top 180,000 years. Jiang, you really deserve to die. But it's difficult. Only then will it be challenging. How can it not be difficult to seize the opportunity to soar to the sky from the 10 million geniuses? Su Fang felt a heavy pressure, but at the same time, it was also a huge motivation. There were still a few years left. Su Fang entered the time and space cave and began to madly devour elixirs, settling into a state of cultivation. At the same time, Su Fang further integrated the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, the Xianming Thunder Archive, and the Samsara Sword, which had been upgraded to divine artifacts. After devouring nearly 1/10 of a creation saint elixir, Su Fang's original body, who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the pool of blood, suddenly surged with astonishing tribulation qi. As soon as Su Fang left the time and space cave and appeared in the palace, the tribulation qi quickly turned into flames and burned fiercely. Su Fang had long expected this breakthrough, so he was neither happy nor sad, and began to attack again and again. Whoosh! Whoosh! The astonishing flames from the convergence of the tribulation fire and the illusory fire cloud swept out, almost burning the palace. Fortunately, Su Fang had already created a formation, otherwise, it would have caused another accident. Under the repeated attacks, a surge of promotion power began to sweep inside and outside his body, and the impurities in the placenta began to surge out. When everything calmed down, Su Fang completed this promotion and stepped into the second heaven of the celestial god realm. He could sense that there were two mysterious heavenly Tao marks in his divine abode. There were two heavenly Tao marks everywhere in his star vortex, inside and outside his body, and in his flesh membrane. His divine abode became a little deeper. Although it was not as good as the heaven and earth Tao Palace, it was incomparably strong and abundant, many times stronger than the celestial god realm at the same level. The speed at which the world tree absorbed and released the power of the world of yin and yang also increased a lot, and the world formed by the 58 yang veins became even more vast. Ever since he advanced to the celestial god realm, the heavenly Tao Qi in his body became more and more obvious. A chaotic world was filled with mysterious chaotic light, which was constantly changing and contained the aura of the heavenly Tao. The aura of the heavenly Tao was very strange, and it contained all the mysteries of the great Tao in the universe, all the laws of the great Tao, all the origins of matter and energy, and it was constantly evolving and changing. The matter condensed by the nature Dharma had already become 1,000 miles large, and the dying Shu Yunkong was sealed here, with Z Satin beside him. Qing Yu, Gui Gui, Long Niao, Sunflower Mermaid, Fire Lizard, Undead Monarch, and the other subordinates, as well as the dozen or so experts he had subdued in the Sui Yu Cave, Huang Lingyao, and Zhu Yan had all created cave residences, using the resources provided by Su Fang to cultivate. Second heaven of the celestial god realm, with the world in my body, various powerful abilities, and divine weapons, it shouldn't be difficult to enter the top 1,000, but this is far from enough. I can only try to improve during the competition. Su Fang counted with his fingers, and there were still about 3 years before the Kamiko Hoshino competition began. Therefore, Su Fang swallowed pills, stabilized his realm, and waited for the competition to begin. Mo Fenghua, the Kamiko Hoshino competition is about to begin. It's time to go to the divine capital. Kuan Su's voice came from the main hall. It's finally begun. Su Fang's spirit was roused, and he walked out of the palace. Kuan Su, Xianlingzi, and the other higher-ups of Kuan Su's divine sect, as well as 100 disciples of Kuan Su's divine sect who were preparing to participate in the Kimiko Hoshino competition, were already waiting outside the palace. Mo Fenghua, the Kuan Su's divine realm is relying on you this time. Kuan Su cupped his fists towards Su Fang, and the other higher-ups also cupped their fists one after another, their eyes filled with anticipation. This time, the people of Kuan Su's divine sect were given the cold shoulder in the star below divine realm. If it weren't for the care of the third master's eldest disciple, Master Lu, they wouldn't even be able to find a place to stay. In Kuan Su's divine sect, they were high and mighty, but when they came out, they received such treatment. It was easy to imagine how they felt. In the end, it was because the overall strength of the Kuan Su's divine realm was too weak. Those 100 disciples were originally complacent, and they planned to soar to the sky in the competition. However, after seeing so many experts and geniuses, these disciples of Kuan Su's divine sect had long lost their lofty aspirations of leaving Kuan Su's divine sect. Their only hope was Su Fang. Special disciple Lan Gaoyang said loudly, "Brother Mo, my goal is to kill my way into the top 10,000, what about you?" "I'll do my best, and I won't embarrass the Kuan Su's divine realm." Su Fang nodded and said, "That's the most important thing. Protecting yourself is the most important, so be careful." Xianlingzi was very worried, and he handed a storage ring to Su Fang. There were tens of millions of mid-grade elixirs stored inside, as well as a large number of spiritual items and rune talismans. The elixirs and spiritual items were used to recover and heal injuries during fights, while the rune talismans were mainly used for defense and attack. Of course, Xianlingzi couldn't take out such a large amount of resources. It was the Kuan Su's divine sect that took out their foundation. Every participating disciple had it, but Su Fang had 10 times more than the others. "Grandpa, grandson understands." Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed to Xianlingzi, Kuan Su, and the others. Then, he led the 100 disciples and flew into the sky. "Brat, don't embarrass your father. Here's something for you, work hard." Ling Xiangmei threw out a storage ring and shouted to Su Fangda. "Aunt Mei is really good to me." Su Fang peeled off a part of his consciousness and entered the storage ring, and he was immediately dumbfounded. In the storage ring, other than the elixirs and spiritual items he expected, there were also a dozen undergarments. Luo laughed loudly in the cavern of time and space. He laughed until Su Fang's face turned red, and he finally became angry out of humiliation. Soon, they arrived at the boundary outside the main realm. The cultivators of the star below divine realm led everyone into the main realm and came to the divine capital. Then, they used the participant's token to enter the space array above the divine capital that was created for the competition. When Su Fang was about to enter the space array, there was a sudden movement in the void high up in the sky. Then, a Xian Guang appeared from the void and flowed down like a waterfall, all the way to the divine capital. Then, it quickly condensed into a huge list that was 1,000 miles long. There was only one huge line of words on the list, Kimiko Hoshino list. As the Xian Guang flashed, countless names flashed on the list. They were the names of all the participating geniuses, but they weren't ranked. What kind of glory was it to be able to enter the Divine Sun list? Including Su Fang, all the participating geniuses of the Kimiko Hoshino competition felt their blood boiling. My name, Su Fang, must appear in the top 100 of the Divine Sun list. Su Fang's eyes shone brightly. A second sky celestial god is also participating in the Divine Sun competition? Looking at his outfit, he should be from Kuan Su's divine realm. Kuan Su's divine realm can't produce any other geniuses other than Earth-steamed bun. This guy must be here to make up the numbers. Su Fang's cultivation level attracted the attention of many people. They commented on him, and naturally, there was no lack of mockery and ridicule. Su Fang smiled faintly and ignored the mockery. He stepped into the space array.